When the sacred angel sword and the dark demon sword were both placed before him, he did not hesitate to take the demon sword. But it wasn't because he didn't want to choose the angel sword. It was because only the demon sword resonated with him. However, he was not surprised by this, as if it had been destined from the start. Even if you lived again, would you still choose me? It turned out that in his previous life, he used the demon sword to become the Empire's strongest assassin. But in the end, he had to die a humiliating death betrayed by the brother he had trusted his whole life. If he were given a new life, he would live differently. At that time, he would only trust himself and take what he wanted without obeying anyone but himself. In the end, heaven did not disappoint him. He was given a new chance to start over. This time, he was determined to walk his own path. Will Cybervert succeed on the path he has chosen? What challenges will he face? Let's dive into the story to find out. In a desolate land, a battle was underway. Everyone surrounded a man in black. A voice kept echoing in the black-clad man's mind, "Live for the family." That was what my father always said. He meant I shouldn't wish for anything, just live like a shadow beside my brother. The man in black knelt on the ground, his hands powerless. It seemed he had been drained of all strength. Finally, someone approached from afar, exclaiming, "What a priceless scene!" The man in black's face was covered in blood as he slightly looked up around him. He was facing countless knights who watched him with caution. Meanwhile, the voice continued, mocking a knight fighting alone against the continent's strongest commanders. On the ground lay many fallen knights as the man in black resisted a man dressed like a monk standing out among the praising crowd. That guy's brother is something else. Quite interesting. The two Saiyans were named. Saiyan coldly looked at the one called Boris. Boris put on a contemptuous face no different from some pervert. Saiyan summoned out his black sword. Who is he? Did he provoke the king's men? A red-black mist enveloped him, but Boris was pushed back by the oppressive aura he created. He frowned, saying, "That disgusting black fog. The rumors were true. You're the assassin from Mist." Saiyan unleashed his power, his presence overwhelming everything around. Boris gritted his teeth. "Your Mist organization is just like a dark bone to us Knights of the Light. I will report to my superiors that I have eliminated the traitor who dared ally with heretics." Fine Saiyan refused to back down, gripping his sword tightly and taunting, "Go ahead, try me. Even if I give you a month after this battle, I guarantee you won't have a single tooth left to complain." Boris showed no fear, confidently replying, "If you plan to use your secret power, you'd better give up. There's a 9-star magic barrier here." The two Saiyans silently thought, "I have to find a way out and expose the mastermind behind this to you." Saiyan's eyes blazed red. He raised his sword in challenge. "A barrier. I'll tear it into 100 pieces." Suddenly a voice rang out, "Enough, Saiyan." A man in golden armor approached. Boris immediately stepped aside respectfully and bowed. Seeing who had arrived, Saiyan was stunned, and his earlier fighting spirit vanished. He silently recalled the words, "Live for the family." That was what my father always said. Afro's brother is the representative of this family. Afrovert's success is also Saiyanvert's success. And the one who arrived was none other than Saiyan's brother Archer. Saiyan was shocked and only later realized that the mastermind behind this was Archer. While Saiyan was still stunned, Archer stepped closer to him. The two Saiyans couldn't believe this. His body collapsed, weighed down as if crushed. Afro calmly said, "Looks like you're confused because I showed up here." The two brothers faced each other, but the atmosphere was extremely awkward. Saiyan still held on to hope and asked, "What's going on here?" Archer calmly said, "Saiyan, you have fulfilled your duty very well to the family, to the people, and to me as well." The last 3 words seemed to flip a switch inside Saiyan. He heard Afro defend himself, so he just wanted you to shed that burden. Saiyan asked, confused, "I don't understand. What have I done, Saiyan?" The troll frowned and said, "What have you done? Saiyan, that terrifying Mist, you are nothing more than a murderer. I can't even consider you human anymore." Saiyan lowered his head without refuting. He never expected a troll to use his own power as a reason to kill him. Meanwhile, Afro still acted righteous, convinced he was right, as he scolded him. "You've been deceiving everyone for so long, and you still don't realize your guilt." Saiyan's face was covered in blood, his mind filled with swirling thoughts. "Murderer! My guilt! What nonsense is he talking about?" Hate filled Saiyan's eyes, his eyes blazing red. Saiyan recalled the succession war in the kingdom. The Demon King's army raided the unification war of the continent. I helped him achieve all of that simply because I was born to serve him. Saiyan angrily punched the ground. He thought to himself, and now he wants to abandon me. I've worked like a beast for 25 years because of him. Saiyan's body erupted with black bone energy. His body was soaked in blood. He told himself, even if this body collapses, it doesn't matter. I will use all my strength as long as I can destroy him. Hatred exploded along with an enormous flood of dark magic. The knights around were horrified. He still has so much magic, impossible he's no longer human. Saiyan gripped his sword, ready for battle. He sneered mockingly. How foolish a hero trying to kill his own brother out of fear. Aren't you ashamed? This seemed to hit Afro's sore spot, veins bulging on his forehead. The two Saiyans charged forward with swords. Red bone energy surrounded Afro's body as they exchanged many moves. It was clear their strength was almost equal. Just once Saiyan accelerated. He thought once is enough. Seeing Afro resisting Saiyan threw all his power into the charge. He thought, if I can hit his weak spot, preventing him from recovering immediately. When Saiyan swung his sword before him, Afro created a shield to block the attack. Saiyan was stunned. Looking around, he realized the problem Boris had helped Archer. Saiyan angrily cursed, "Damn you, Boris." A contemptuous voice shouted at the lowlife, followed by a strike piercing Saiyan's stomach. His own black sword fell to the ground. The villain holding the sword through his brother's stomach showed disappointment. Because you are my brother, I intended to show mercy with a painless death, but you revealed your true face. The villain frowned, speaking righteously. I knew from the start that you were the devil. Luckily, I never trusted you. These words were a huge shock to Sean, who had given his all for the villain. The villain coldly kicked Sean's weak body hard, then mercilessly turned to Boris. Let's go. Boris happily bowed and replied, yes, sir. The two Saiyans lay on the ground completely drained, looking up at the distant sky, silently cursing. Saiyan's thoughts drifted. Is this my fate? I've lived a foolish life. His eyes slowly lowered. Saiyan scolded himself, idiot. Suddenly, Astro sensed something wrong and turned around. It turned out Saiyan had gotten up and was rushing towards him. Saiyan shouted, pouring all his strength into this attack. Just as the sword was at Archer's throat, a burst of light knocked Saiyan away. In the endless darkness, Saiyan seemed to hear a voice calling, Young Master Saiyan. He suddenly sat up, clutching his neck, panting heavily. A maid looked angry and scolded, How much longer are you going to sleep, sir? Get up quickly. You have to get ready now. Young Master Saiyan called out fearfully to Emily, Why are you here at this time? He felt something was wrong. Saiyan observed Emily and thought, It's been nearly 25 years since I last saw her, and she looks exactly the same as the last time. While Saiyan was confused, Emily was holding her frightened little heart and asked, What did you say, sir? Are you still not awake? But Saiyan ignored her and looked around. I remember this place. It's the room I lived in as a child. The decorations are still the same. Suddenly, he realized something and raised his hand to touch his face. Wait, have I gone back to being a child? Emily was now leaning on her hand, loudly calling Master Sean, making him look up in surprise. Emily looked knowingly and said, You're just dragging out the time so you don't have to go train, right? Snap out of it and let's go. Sean momentarily forgot and asked confusedly, Train? Train for what? As soon as the question was asked, the room fell silent. In the Vought clan's duchy today was a beautiful day, no clouds, no rain. Saiyan looked at the sunlight streaming in and thought silently, I'm definitely back in the past. He worried, could this be the film that flashes before my eyes before I die? Remembering the current events, Saiyan suddenly woke up. I remember now. 25 years ago, in the founding year 985, 1/3 a year after I entered the academy, the duchy held an annual combat training event. My father, the ruler of this duchy, Duke Vert, also participated, making it a major event. My opponent was Prince Vert, who was my age and my half-brother. His mother, Margaret Oz, was the Duke's wife, so Prince received a lot of attention, even though we were both the youngest in the family. Saiyan quietly recalled his useless self back then and thought, I was a spoiled child. After being mocked in this match, I became a laughingstock for everyone. But at that time, Saiyan's father angrily said, Don't even try. That match was also the reason my father stopped caring about me. Emily whispered worriedly to him, Maybe you should just give up. Saiyan calmly replied, It's okay as long as I win. He thought sadly, Even the maid looks down on me. As he drew his sword, Saiyan was startled and held it up. Just a sword, but why is it so heavy? My strength is still the same as back then. Emily waved and warned, Don't get hurt, young master. Saiyan gripped the sword tightly and pondered this feeling was neither a dream nor an illusion. Before dying, I never heard that casting spells could cause such strong hallucinations. Thinking this, he pressed his lips tensely. Have I really gone back to the past? Stepping onto the arena, friends arrogantly mocked, "You're not running away, huh?" At that moment, Cyan's only thought was, so can I change the future? He anxiously looked at the Duke beside him, who raised his hand signaling to start. As soon as the order was given, Prince charged with his sword, a smug look on his face, shouting, "What are you staring at, you idiot?" Now Grenz happily swung his sword downward. Cyan watched everything coldly, thinking, what's this? Is he a snail or something that slow? Cyan stepped back one step. Grenz lost momentum and by habit thrust his sword into the ground, losing face. Grenz gritted his teeth and cursed, "Get out of my way, coward." Hurry. Just as he was about to attack, Cyan lightly swung his sword, knocking Grenz's weapon away, then added a kick to Grenz's knee. Grenz painfully teared up, but gritted his teeth, trying to endure the pain for the sake of his pride. Finally, unable to bear it, Renzi collapsed to the ground, clutching his leg in pain. Renzi's mother, Margaret, shouted worriedly, "Renzi!" Cyan's eyes burned red. He coldly thought, now if I just point my sword at his throat, this duel would be over. But that's not enough. Cyan gripped the sword tightly, recalling how friends always bullied him as a kid, using him for amusement. Even when I went to school, it was the same. That shameless, smug face is something I can never forget. So Cyan's only thought was to trample him down so he wouldn't dare do that to me again. Cyan gently prepared to kick Friends. He told himself, in this life, I will carve out my own path. Meanwhile, Grenz screamed in fear. As a result, Grenz lost the match and lay on the floor foaming at the mouth, unconscious. Meanwhile, the Duke ordered Cyan to visit him and also gave him some rest. He doubted, is my victory really that impressive? Cyan glanced at the large knight beside him, who was even escorted by the senior knight Eugen, the Duke's right hand. At that moment, Margaret and the servant approached. Cyan didn't need to wait for her arrival to guess what would happen next. He disdainfully thought she was about to talk about her son. Looking at her as if she had just stepped in dog poop, Cyan couldn't resist provoking. "Renz, are you okay, madam?" Margaret angrily gritted her teeth and scolded, "You beat my brother into this state, and you still dare ask that? You really have no shame." Cyan ignored her hands in his pockets, walking quickly with an unmistakable smug expression, saying, "That's how a duel should be. Until next time." Unexpectedly, Margaret retorted, "That's why scum like you shouldn't be treated like a real son." The more she spoke, the fiercer she got, continuously insulting. "Like mother, like son. It's all because of your filthy mother. You should be begging on the streets by now. Yet you still dare cause trouble. You should be grateful." Those words angered Cyan. He turned his head, revealing his blazing red eyes and frightening face, thinking silently, "She's crossed the line. Should I kill her?" Cyan smirked slyly. More than anyone, he knew best how to torment her. He would let her slowly feel this pain. Cyan spoke slowly. "Madam, you know I'll be attending the academy with Grands, right?" Margaret immediately became alert. "What do you mean?" Cyan grinned wickedly and threatened, "Surely you want your son to graduate safe and sound. I guess you're not really that worried about him, right, madam?" Margaret gritted her teeth, about to curse. "You," she raised her hand. "How dare you, you bastard?" Cyan waited expectantly, looking at the knight beside him, who stopped Margaret. "Sorry, madam," that person politely informed the Duke to urgently summon the young master. "I don't think we can delay any longer. We must leave at once." The knight's words were beyond reproach, but conveyed impatience to the listener. Margaret gritted her teeth. Although unwilling, she could do nothing else. Cyan smugly hid behind the knight. The Duke's orders are supreme, and he was being protected by the knight who obeyed those orders, a knight who didn't even submit to the Duke's wife, a kind and trustworthy man. Cyan was led to the Duke's room, knocked several times, and heard a voice from inside. "Come in." Cyan entered respectfully and greeted youngest Cyan of the Vote family, requests an audience with father. Cyan bowed, thinking it had been nearly 15 years since they last met alone like this. Duke Willius clapped his hand, signaling him to sit. He was the great lord of Velius, a territory in the western kingdom of Yusuf. The world also called him by another name, the continent's guardian, a hero who had stopped a demon invasion with tremendous magic power and wise intellect. This man bore a responsibility no one forced him to carry until his last breath in battle against the demon king's army. What he wanted most was peace for this entire continent. But my memory of him is different, a man who voluntarily spent his life serving others, a fool. Cyan still wore an innocent face while judging Willius. Willius spoke up, breaking the silence in front of his son, observing carefully and dodging the sword strike with precision. Saiyan looked confused, not understanding what he meant. Then Willius pointed out the moment Gran rushed in. You look straight at the swinging sword and turn to avoid the blow. Willius pointed out all the key details of Saiyan's fight today. Then he asked, since when did you learn swordsmanship? Saiyan, nervous, but as usual, thought he was very perceptive. He tried to appear calm and replied, I didn't really learn. You practiced alone every night. And of course, Willius didn't believe that excuse. He asked again, as far as I remember, you weren't interested in swordsmanship. Why are you hiding your abilities? Saiyan scratched his head awkwardly. Actually, I didn't want to draw attention. Willius continued, still, you really did your best to defeat Renz. But hearing Willius pause, Saiyan was startled. Willius mentioned his final kick and said, wasn't what you did afterward unnecessary? Saiyan immediately caught the point. So you were asking to probe me, trying to grasp my abilities. He immediately searched for a justified explanation and replied, I want to prove myself. Willius asked suspiciously, prove what exactly? The Saiyan answered frankly, to prove I'm better than Grenz, even though we share the same bloodline. That's also the meaning I derived from the duel. As soon as he finished, Willius burst out laughing. He joyfully praised, very good, a clear and precise answer that shows your level. I didn't expect you to be so talented. I'm very pleased. Willius thought one day you will definitely become Archer's right-hand man. Just mentioning Archer made Saiyan feel like his whole world was collapsing. What? Why would I become his assistant? Memories from before death flashed vividly before his eyes. Saiyan looked at Willius with anger. As usual, he only cared about Archer. Saiyan clenched his fists, trying to stay calm, but Willius didn't notice anything unusual and cheerfully said, this isn't a trophy, but I want to reward you for the recent match. If you want anything, just ask. Yes, Saiyan seemed determined and thought to himself, then I will destroy everything that bastard Atro wants to do. With that thought, Saiyan confidently said, what I want. Back to the present, Emily screamed in horror after hearing Saiyan's wish. What, you want to go to battlefield too? Saiyan calmly sat on the bed and replied, yes, nothing is certain yet. Emily shouted, you're crazy, have you lost your mind? Do you know what kind of place that is? It's full of terrifying monsters and demons. Thinking of that, Emily shuddered. Velius, the western territory of the Usip kingdom, is the only place on the continent considered a battlefield. However, inside this territory, only the Limi Valley is the front line. It is a brutal arena where battles against demons have raged for hundreds of years. Therefore, my father, who opposed it from the start, set a condition I must prove myself worthy of going to Limi Valley within a month. I don't know what he will base his decision on. Saiyan looked at his weak body and silently told himself, during that time, I must strengthen my physical power. Compared to others, my age, I'm still weaker. Unless I'm lucky enough to keep my combat instinct from before the regression and the faint magic I sense inside. If I train my body with my abilities, I can definitely make good use of it. Great, I must start training today. Looking at the red mist in his palms, Saiyan grew even more determined. Suddenly, a shout came from outside the door. Saiyan! A girl rushed into Sehun's room. Seeing who it was, Sehun exclaimed in surprise, Alice! Before he could understand what was happening, Alice rushed forward and grabbed his collar. Emily asked blankly, are you okay, Miss Alice? But Alice ignored Emily and angrily scolded Sehun. Are you crazy? I heard you asked Father to let you go to the battlefield. Right. Saiyan, choked by his collar, struggled to say, Alice, let me go. Alice released Saiyan's collar. Seeing her weak little brother lying on the ground, she angrily said, seems like you got cocky after beating friends, huh? That's not true, Alice ordered. Seriously. Come with me to the city wall. Hurry up. The sky had already darkened. On the city wall, Alice faced Saiyan and ordered, when I draw my sword, I'll start. If you can withstand my attack for 3 minutes, I'll let you go to battle. Saiyan asked helplessly, do we really have to go this far, Alice? Alice replied seriously, I don't care. Just answer me one thing. Are you aiming for the family's leadership? Alice's gaze sharpened. Saiyan understood the issue and thought in frustration. So that's why she's doing this, huh? I don't even have the slightest interest in it. Seeing his silence, Alice assumed her suspicion was correct. She drew her sword and said, then it's true. Draw your sword, Saiyan. Tired Saiyan drew his sword. I just got half a day's rest after the match with Granz, and today is already chaotic. Seeing Saiyan drew his sword, Alice rushed straight at him. Saiyan thought she was joking, but it turned out to be true. Stunned as he looked ahead, Alice quickly attacked him. Luckily, Saiyan instinctively blocked the strike using the instincts from his past life. This surprised Alice. No way, the kid blocked my sword. He's only 10 years old. While Alice was surprised Saiyan was gritting his teeth to block the blow, she really intended to use all her strength to hit her younger brother, who is 7 years younger. Alice stepped back. She assessed Kim Lu's sword as very thin, yet the boy still managed to block her long sword. These 2 times were just luck. The veins on Alice's forehead bulged. She smiled without really smiling and said, "Your instincts are better than I thought, dear Saiyan." Just seeing that smile sent chills down Saiyan's spine. He silently thought, "I'm doomed." He struggled to call Alice, hoping for some mercy. But Alice ignored him and charged again with a relentless attack. She spun around, swinging her sword, creating a beautiful move. Saiyan struggled to block the heavy sword blade resting on his shoulder. Quickly sliding along the blade, he seized the chance to escape Alice's restraint. Saiyan swung his sword toward her. This terrified Alice, who had thought he was weak. Just after escaping her hold, Saiyan took the chance to thrust his sword at Alice. But the power gap was too great. Saiyan gritted his teeth and cursed silently, "Damn it." He put force into his wrist and spun the sword around, then quickly pushed Alice back. Saiyan jumped backward, widening the distance between them. He landed on a nearby rock, breathing heavily as fear flooded him. That move could have been really dangerous. If I hadn't redirected the sword mid-spin, I might have killed her. Miss Zung's sword techniques mostly focus on striking critical points. Used for instant assassination, it's very hard to fight without hitting the opponent's weak spot, because his strength was currently quite weak. Saiyan worriedly thought, how much time is left in those 3 minutes? His hand holding the sword trembled intermittently. He tensely pondered, I'm compensating for my weak strength by enveloping the sword with magic, but I'm reaching my limit. Meanwhile, Alice, unable to defeat her younger brother by 7 years, became angry. She gritted her teeth and chanted, Earth, wind, and water come forth and strengthen my sword's power. Saiyan immediately recognized it. He was shocked and panicked. Level 6 magic. Sure enough, Alice is using the water sword technique to envelop her weapon. She assumed a fighting stance, preparing to unleash her full strength. Saiyan cried inside, is she trying to kill me? I thought this was just a test of strength, but it seems Alice's competitive blood has surged. She was determined, saying, I can't lose. Seeing this, Saiyan was helpless. It's over. I can see the killing intent just from the look in her eyes. Saiyan prepared to defend and attack. He worried, I'm going to fall off the wall. Even if I block this move, I have to believe it will happen right after. Thinking this, Saiyan lunged forward. He rushed straight at Alice, who was readying her ultimate move. As he swung his sword, Saiyan prayed, please, please stop this fight. Alice spun around her, preparing to strike. Saiyan shouted her name, Yun-kun. Indeed, just as they were about to collide, a voice shouted, stop. Yun-kun grabbed Sehun by the collar with one hand and caught Alice's sword with the other. The clash of the two swords caused a huge shockwave throughout the wall. Blue light illuminated everything. Yun-kun called to her sternly, Alice, you're being too harsh on an opponent so much younger than you. Saiyan breathed a sigh of relief. I was wondering when he would show up, but luckily it's just in time. Only then did Alice startle awake and shout. She hurriedly hugged Saiyan, crying, ah! Sorry, Saiyan, I must have lost my mind for a moment. Alice cried miserably, explaining, I just wanted to keep you off the battlefield. I'm too obsessed with that. Saiyan helplessly felt his sister's tears. He told himself, this is so like her. She always overdoes everything. Saiyan's sister used to be an outstanding student among the elite. She earned S ranks in all subjects at the Royal Academy, where all the talented children gathered. If they have a talent for swordsmanship, magic, or other academic fields, above all, her beauty is truly astonishing. So people called her the child of the gods. Since she was little, she was trained strictly in swordsmanship. She was mentioned as the future defender of the continent, along with the eldest son, Ashelvert. But not long after joining the Knights of Light Legion, she was assassinated. Memories from his past life flooded back. Saiyan emotionally hugged Alice tightly, silently thinking, I missed you so much. Alice, this time I will protect you. Alice, confused by Saiyan's unstable emotions, called his name. Saiyan got no reply. Alice suddenly remembered something and turned to ask Yun-kun, now that you mention it, aren't you the Count's guardian knight? But the Count already left for the battlefield. Yun-kun nervously looked away and answered, I'm currently ordered by the Count to protect the young master for a while. Though I can't tell you because I have to keep it secret. Saiyan knew the lie well. He despised him inwardly. I sensed his presence the moment I left the Count's office. Would he have appeared if this battle hadn't happened? But why does Father Yun need to secretly protect me? Saiyan suddenly became dreamy, his eyes nearly closing. He fell asleep in Alice's arms peacefully. Alice sighed, looking at him with affectionate helplessness. Looking at the starry night sky, she sighed. He's still like a child. The next day, Alice returned to the academy. Clearly, she only came back briefly to see father before the graduation ceremony. At that time, Saiyan was doing push-ups. He counted to 9. After struggling, he finally did the 10th push-up. Saiyan thought to himself, I feel like I need to get stronger. So I've been focusing on strength training for the past 2 weeks. But 10 push-ups is my limit. I've been stuck at this limit for 2 weeks now. Realizing this harsh truth, Saiyan felt utterly hopeless. He remembered his past life with envy. I used to be quite confident in my strength. In my past life, I wanted to return to how I was before. I need a way to boost my physical strength. Suddenly, Emily walked in and announced, Young Master, a package was sent from Miss Alice. Saiyan asked excitedly. Really? Emily pinched her nose and held out a bottle full of a strong scent, saying, What is this? It smells terrible. Saiyan only dared to think silently. That's a bit of hellhound blood I asked her to get for me. It's a rare item only found in the Limi Valley. But I guess the rumor about it appearing on the black market is true. Saiyan poured the blood into a bowl. The liquid inside began to boil fiercely. He told himself the blood of this fierce beast is considered a poison because of its terrible stench and the burning sensation when used. But actually it permanently increases a user's mana and strength the first time it's used. Many think it's just a rumor, but I know it's true from experience in my past life. Seeing Saiyan lift the bowl, Emily worriedly asked Young, Master, are you really going to drink that? Saiyan nodded in response. He added in his mind, Don't worry, Emily, I'm the only one who can handle your cooking skills anyway. Saiyan lifted the bowl and drank it all in one go. He couldn't help but remember his past experience. The first time was wild mushroom soup. Right, Tim? I stopped breathing after biting the first piece of that. Compared to that soup, this felt like 8 soups combined, like a monster moving in my mind. Saiyan slammed the bowl down. The blood was all spilled on the table. He hypnotized himself. It's tasty, but my face looks like I'm high on something. Making Emily cautious suddenly, Saiyan stood up and called Emily. She looked confused but said yes. Saiyan's eyes were blazing red. He smiled and said, I'm going for a walk. Saiyan excitedly thought, now let's see if it works. Saiyan went to an empty lot looking at a spot quite far from the castle. Saiyan sighed, it's been a while since I last came here. I've been waiting for this moment for the past 2 weeks. The private moment Yoon needs. He doesn't follow me here because he often reports to father. He keeps following me. It's really annoying. I used to come here whenever I wanted to be alone. Until one day Archer received a revelation from the light god Lumendel. It was said that an ancient temple is hidden somewhere in these mountains. I didn't fully believe it, but there really is a place where the mana flow is concentrated. It seems to be somewhere around here. Of course, the god's revelation has arrived. Saiyan excitedly channels magic into his hand. He happily thinks, so only I know about this now. Saiyan uses magic to dig up the soil and rocks beneath his feet. He smugly thinks, I bet you can't imagine what I'm doing right now. Looks like it's right here. Sure enough, after the earth was dug up, an underground tunnel appeared. Saiyan silently says, let's go. Saiyan goes deeper inside. He looks around, assessing everything. Unlike the last time I was here, this place is the ancient temple dedicated to the light god Lumendel. Until the history of this land was erased due to the war between gods and demons 300 years ago. Sukun looks at the glowing temple ahead, his cold face marveling, who would have imagined this place exists right on the mountain behind the castle? Saiyan steps to the altar, seeing what's shining ahead. He excitedly says, I see it. The owner of this castle is none other than Archer's past life sword. In the year 999 after the founding on December 8th, humanity finally succeeded in driving out the Demon King's army from Valius. The Demon King's army was many times stronger than humans. But humans found an ancient holy relic, a divine weapon that helped them win. One of those relics, Durandal, is the holy sword carrying the power of the light god Lumendel. This sword was probably the main reason humanity defeated the demons. And I will also die tragically in the future by this very sword. Something you'd rather not remember, but once you do, it just annoys you. This sword. Saiyan looks at the shining sword ahead, thinking, it seems Durandal is related to my regression. Saiyan reaches out to touch the sword's finely engraved surface. Nothing he expected appears. Saiyan sighs as predicted. Nothing is happening. Frustrated, he kicks the sword hard. Saiyan turns around, gritting his teeth and swearing, completely losing interest. Sword, damn it, finish the job and let's go. If this sword could talk, it would definitely have cursed me back. Saiyan recalls the saying, once you pass through the light, a strange shadow will appear. He strides to the opposite side of the Durandal sword and finds what he needs. Found it at a glance, you'd think this is the shadow of a sword, but it's not. There's no shadow at all. He smiles happily, placing his hand where the shadow would be. Cyan uses his magic. He thinks where there is light, there must be darkness. This is a passage leading to another room, a secret tunnel hidden beneath the light altar. Cyan follows the path to a door. He slightly opens the door, peeks inside, and sure enough, the sword he was waiting for appears here. Cyan happily says, "There you are, my sword." Cyan grabs the demon's sword, Karam different from the Durandal sword this time. Upon touching the demon sword, a powerful energy bursts out, but the gem on the sword sparkles as if welcoming its new master. Cyan excitedly raises the sword. "Good morning, Karam." Swinging it a few times, Cyan feels unlike his past life. He irritably asks, "You still haven't awakened." But that doesn't lessen Cyan's happiness. He laughs excitedly. This familiar feeling is the best. Suddenly wanting to slash something badly. Black mist rises from the ground. A shadow appears and asks, "Hey kid, aren't you scared? Don't you know what awakening me will bring?" Cyan coldly replies, "Not knowing means this sword is mine now." The black shadow rises, revealing its giant form. It starts threatening, awakening the demon sword, which is sleeping. "You'll regret it when it's too late, kid." The excited shadow laughs slyly. It quickly lunged forward, shouting loudly, "Your body now belongs to me." Unexpectedly, Cyan caught the shadow's neck with just one hand. He calmly watched the shadow transform into a struggling human form, gasping for breath. "You weren't in such a hurry before, were you?" The shadow struggled to speak. "What are you, and how can you touch me?" Cyan smiled smugly and said, "I told you this sword belongs to me." The shadow refused to back down, raising its hand to reveal pink claws. It swung its hand to attack Cyan. "Go away." Taking advantage of Cyan releasing his grip, it quickly retreated. The shadow cautiously looked at him. "Who are you? Could you be the successor?" Around Cyan, the shadow saw a demonic black and red mist. It doubted, "Why do I sense Eru's aura coming from you?" Cyan calmly replied, "That's right, I am Eru's successor." He sneered and said, "Your master has returned, kneel down." Karam's sword knelt. Karam angrily gritted his teeth and cursed, "You're just a kid, I won't accept it." After finishing his words, Karam charged at Cyan but was blocked by Cyan's own being. Cyan, though, smiling while blocking, thought probably no use saying more. The ultimate goal of the demon sword is to take over the body of its wielder. Seeing Karam putting all his strength into the attack, he thought, "I have no choice but to give a little ground." Thinking this, Cyan slowly stepped back, making Karam think he had the advantage, and pressed the attack. Suddenly, Cyan smiled slyly. He used a technique to subdue the demon sword, causing Karam to fall to the ground screaming in pain. Cyan asked, "I told you once, why won't you accept me as your master when I'm still being kind?" Karam struggled against the oppressive technique and cursed, "How did you get that technique, you arrogant brat?" Cyan coldly used this demon sword subduing technique, again slamming Karam's head to the ground. He repeatedly shouted, "Subdue demon sword, subdue demon sword, subdue demon sword." After a few times, Karam was half buried in the ground. Cyan mercifully spared him and asked, "How about now?" Of course, Karam had no choice but to accept him. Seeing Karam's attitude still cocky, Cyan was about to use the technique again, but Karam immediately trembled and called for his master. After everything was settled, Cyan stepped out the door. He thought, well, the work that needed doing is done now. I've been gone too long. Thinking this, Cyan picked up his sword and left. Karam lay inside the sword, happily exclaiming, "It's been a long time since I breathed fresh air. It feels so refreshing." Karam playfully crawled out of the sword, forming a small, cute shadow. It circled him and asked, "Hey, master, what's your name?" Cyan coldly replied, Cyan verse. Karam or Cyan? I've never heard that name before. Did Eru really choose a kid like you? Cyan answered seriously, "Yeah, from my past life, Karam, or maybe your past life." "What the hell are you talking about?" Cyan said calmly. "I've died once before, you know?" Karam was stunned, wondering what he meant. Its gaze scrutinized him. Suddenly, Cyan walked up to the Durandrak sword. Karam exclaimed, "Is he still sleeping?" Cyan said he still has to wait for his master for another 25 years. Hearing him say it so surely, Karam sneered, "You talk as if you know the future." Suddenly, Cyan raised his sword and cut the handle of the Durandrak sword in half. Watching the sword fall to the ground, Karam was horrified. "What are you trying to do?" Cyan grinned wickedly, looking at the severed handle in his hand. Who knows, maybe this will make the future more interesting. At dawn, the carriages set off, leaving the castle behind. The wheels stopped at a desolate wasteland. The carriage door opened. Cyan, clad in armor, stepped down. He looked around and assessed, "Can't believe the day has finally come. Time really flies." Cyan walked over to Willius. He bowed respectfully to Duke Willius and seriously said, "I ask you one last time, Are you determined to charge into the battlefield? If you want to retreat, I won't stop you. Yes. Sayan showed a determined face and confidently replied, Yes, father. My heart lies on the battlefield now. Hearing that Willius didn't ask any further, he turned and ordered Unkang to open it. Unkang immediately responded, Yes, sir. He took out a scroll. Sayan recognized the spell scroll at a glance. Were they planning to summon something? Only to see Yoon swing the scroll over the magic circle. Inside, a beast slowly appeared right in front of them. Giant paws with sharp claws. A fierce dog appeared growling at Sayan. He was shocked to recognize it as a demon dog. Sayan smirked confidently. A low-level beast from the Limmy Valley father and the knights must have put a lot of effort into preparing this test. Thinking so, he grew even more excited, gripping his sword and taking a ready stance. Around him, the knights held their sword hilts ready to assist at any moment. Sayan also noticed this and thought to himself they would rush in if things got dangerous. Yes, son William said, crossing his arms and seriously reminding him to take responsibility for his actions. So prove your skills by passing this trial and show us what you're made of. At the same time, Eun-kyun was lost in thought about the trial. He recalled a few days ago when he was holding a sword. Eun-kyun looked anxiously at the man in front and asked, Young master, did you just say you want to duel me? Sayan stood before him resigned and said, There are only 3 days left before I have to fulfill my promise to father. I can't keep swinging my sword at thin air forever, right? I have to learn how to fight for real. Will you help me? Sayan put on a sincere face and asked. Yunkan nervously replied, A duel at your age, young master Grand is... Before Yun-kun could finish, Sayan said, I don't know why, but every time he meets me, he runs away, recalling the desperate fleeing and the pitiful scream of Ren's, Don't come near me. Un-kun thought hopelessly, what a hassle, I can't find any other reason. Yun-kyun reluctantly agreed, if you want to, then fine. Sayan smiled happily. Yun-kyun raised his sword and set a condition. Instead, I'll only use the sword's sheath to fight you. I'll focus on defense. You just attack with all your might. Sayan drew his sword, smiling, and said, Thank you, sir. Suddenly, Yunkan spoke up, I have one more thing to ask. From now on, whatever happens, don't tell father anything. This is an order. Sayan's expression changed instantly. He threatened Yunkan. He frowned suspiciously, but in a flash, Sayan lunged forward with dizzying speed to attack Yun-kun. He hurriedly raised his sword to block the sudden strike. Yoon-eun-hye silently assessed the heavy sword and couldn't believe it belonged to a 10-year-old child. Sayan used his body and speed advantage to quickly move to the side. Yoon-eun-hye thought in amazement, he's too fast. Suddenly, Sayan vanished before him. It turned out Sayan had jumped into the air and flipped behind, making Yun-kun panic without realizing when. He quickly calmed down, spun around, and clashed swords with Sayan, creating a powerful shockwave. Sayan didn't give up and moved elsewhere to continue attacking. His eyes burned red with murderous intent as his small body rushed forward. They exchanged a few more moves. Yun-kun blocked all of Sayan's attacks. He jumped back, sighed, and said, As expected, I still can't beat you. Sayan sheathed his sword, turned, and said, Well done, Yun-kun. Thank you for helping me. Yun-kun panted and praised, Very good, young master. He thought to himself, I didn't expect young master Sayan, who seemed weak, to improve this much. The memory of Sayan smiling brightly happily resurfaced in the present. Yun-kun reminded himself that if his intuition was correct, the young master could now pass the trial. At this moment, Sayan was standing facing the demon dog. The demon dog suddenly charged forward, ready to attack. Zun tensed, thinking, It's charging. The demon dog opened its mouth wide, revealing sharp teeth. Suddenly, it saw a sword flying toward it. Sayan struck, forcing it to divert to the side. He coldly observed and thought that with his current strength, fighting the beast was too much. He had to finish this battle as quickly as possible. I'll end it with just this one move. Think and act. Sayan immediately rushed forward to attack. He stood upright, controlled his wrist to swing the sword, the slash, stopping right at the neck of the demon dog. Not only that, Sayan jumped into the air and threw the sword, pinning the demon dog's head to the ground. All of this stunned the surrounding knights. Willius smiled satisfied as he looked closely at the demon dog on the ground. Sayan couldn't help but think, like it was a waste, the blood here could fill a few bottles for sure. He pulled the sword out of the monster's head, silently thinking that if he did this here, they'd probably think he was crazy. At least he should have brought a cup. Willius came from behind, clapped his hands, and praised, Well done, Sayan. Then he turned around and said, See you again on the battlefield. His cloak fluttered, making Willius think he looked cool. Sayan bowed respectfully and said, Thank you, father. At that moment, Karam slowly crawled out. Its master angrily asked, "Do you think I'm just a fruit-peeling knife, or what?" Saiyan nervously replied, "Of course not. Are you a demon sword? Why ask that?" Karam gritted his teeth and cursed, "Then use me, damn it. I need to absorb blood to grow stronger." It painfully flew to the demon dog's corpse, begging, "Please, just one sip." Witnessing this, Saiyan could only feel helpless. He spoke to comfort, "Don't worry." Saiyan smiled slyly as a black mist enveloped his body. Holding Karam in his hand, he explained, "Soon I'll use you to do the real work. Just wait for it on the battlefield." The fierce monsters crazily attacked all around. The knights immediately surrounded them, shouting, "Ogre! Ogre!" from the northwest region. They quickly rang the bell to alert. William spurred his horse to the front and ordered to form a defensive line, then eliminate them. "Don't let any survive. Begin the monster suppression operation." The knights immediately raised their swords in response. A huge magic circle formed covering the monsters. It split into smaller circles appearing beneath the ogre's feet. From the magic circles, vines rose up and tightly bound the ogre's limbs. Taking advantage of this, William ordered the attack. The knights quickly charged forward, slashing and killing the monsters. Each person focused on wiping them out completely to prevent future threats, especially the giant ogre leader, whose size was about 10 times that of a normal person. But the knight coldly held his sword and charged. With just one slash, he severed the ogre's head. The head fell right in front of Saiyan, who calmly stared at it while Emily, walking behind, screamed in fear. "Mom," she cried out, calling the young master. Emily still couldn't understand and asked, "Why would you want to come here? Aren't you scared?" Saiyan didn't answer. He looked around and sighed. "Coming back here brings back memories. This place is still like hell." "Yeah," Willius said after handling things approaching him to ask how Saiyan felt on the front lines. Saiyan didn't change expression and gently replied, "I'm just a little nervous." Willius advised, "You see, the battlefield is a death zone. You never know when you'll die, so don't let your guard down." "Yes," Saiyan seriously answered, "Yes, Father, I remember." He thought silently situations like this are normal on the front lines. There could be 3 or 4 battles in a single day. Each battle had its own detailed countermeasures, using skilled senior knights as the core to handle all the monsters trying to break through the front lines. The battle ended, and the group returned to their tents to rest. Saiyan peeked out from his tent, observing that their camp was in the very back area, which was also the safest place. Saiyan thought irritably, "The guards are always on tight watch, so Karam doesn't even get a chance to suck blood. Do we really have to wait until dinner time?" He turned and saw Emily trembling under the blanket and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" Emily poked her head out of the blanket and screamed, "Didn't the Duke say we never know when we might die?" "That's why I'm scared." Saiyan sighed helplessly. Unbelievable. "So you plan to pack up and go home?" Seeing his expression, Emily angrily scolded, "Do you even think about it? So you intend to pack up and go home?" Seeing that expression on his face, Emily angrily scolded, "Do you even think about it at all? When will you be able to stand on your own without me?" Emily gritted her teeth and criticized, "Monsters are everywhere. Suppose I run away. Who will take care of you, young master?" She stepped out of the tent in frustration. "Let's go. It's almost mealtime." Saiyan suddenly asked Emily, "What about the cloak I asked you to take care of?" But at that moment, Emily had already left without replying to him. Veins bulged all over Saiyan's face. He thought to himself, "Should I fire her? Is this how she treats her young master?" At night, Saiyan gently placed a doll made to his exact likeness on the bed and covered it with a blanket. He looked at it carefully for a while and silently thought, "This should be fine." Suddenly, a voice rang out, "Here, you still plan to go out and train?" Saiyan was startled and replied, Did I wake you up?" Emily drowsily rubbed her eyes and praised, "You're really dedicated, sir. The Duke would be proud if he knew." Hearing that, Saiyan scornfully pulled up his hood and instructed, I'm leaving now. Just carry on with your work as usual." "I'm still sleeping," remember, Emily answered tiredly. "Yes." Saiyan used magic to speed himself up. He thought, because this is the front line, night guards among the soldiers are frequently reinforced and they're strictly guarded. So if I don't leave the camp now, it will be hard to move freely. Thinking that, Saiyan ran out of the camp area. He used his Bone Shoe's third skill, Misty Bone Stance, to jump off the cliff and land on the ground. Saiyan realized, if I remember correctly, there are tons of monsters here. Sure enough, a pack of bloodthirsty demon dogs surrounded him. Saiyan's eyes reddened. He smiled wickedly and evaluated a perfect place to use Karam to absorb their blood right. Karam spoke up as he summoned the demon sword. Karam, smelling the scent it's craved for so long, excitedly said, "The blood scent is so strong. My master doesn't think he can hold back anymore. Hurry and let me slash something." Saiyan didn't disappoint and raised his sword toward the demon dogs, who still didn't realize the danger and rushed forward. Cyan excitedly charged, saying, "All right, Karam, I'll go along with your wishes." He swung hard at the demon dogs, then spun his sword, preparing another strike. Behind him, he used the technique Sword Dance Stormy Mist. Just one move wiped out countless demon dogs. His swift agility and sharp blade left the monsters no chance to react. The night was still long, and the sky remained pitch black. Cyan stabbed a straw deeply into the neck of a dead demon dog. Then he took a cup to catch its still warm blood. As soon as the cup was full, Cyan raised it and drank all the blood in one gulp. Not only that, Cyan was also a thoughtful master. He held Karam up over the cup and offered, "Here's yours." Karam excitedly exclaimed after awakening, "This is the first time I've felt this refreshed." Cyan cheerfully said, "Good, I'll keep training like this, okay?" Karam supported and said, "Looking at these bugs ahead, how long will it take to get stronger?" Cyan smirked confidently, "Don't worry, the night is long and there are plenty of monsters." In Cyan's line of sight was an army of monsters preparing to attack. Of course, Karam saw this too. It trembled and shouted excitedly. Meanwhile, on the mountainside, a convoy was moving. A young woman with white hair sat inside a carriage looking out the window. Across from her was a worried voice advising, "I still think the front line is too dangerous." "Shall I return a princess?" The person called Princess firmly replied. "I told you don't treat me like a child. I am the princess of this kingdom. I have the responsibility to help your king father." "How many times do I have to say it?" Her voice was full of seriousness. The princess threatened, "If you say it again, I'll really get mad." The attendant awkwardly answered, "Yes, princess." Suddenly the maid spoke up. "Oh, speaking of which, there's news that the youngest son of the Fought family is also going to the front." "He's about the same age as you, sir," the princess asked in surprise. "He brought his youngest son with him." The maid explained the duke didn't plan to bring him along. The young master volunteered himself. "They're also the same age as you, sir. To get to know each other, I guess." The princess shyly turned her head and said, "You act like I care about those little things." She left. "I need to get some sleep." The maid, thinking she had made the princess angry, quickly bowed and replied, "Yes, ma'am." After a moment, the princess suddenly asked, "What is his name?" The maid hurriedly answered, "It's Cyan, ma'am. I'm quite sure his name is Cyan." The princess muttered Cyan's name to herself with effort. Cyan poured tea while the princess folded her arms and looked out the carriage door. The gentle moonlight illuminated her beautiful face. A bird-like humanoid monster had been slashed several times across its body. It screamed out in pain immediately. William spurred his horse around, ordering to check if anyone was injured. The knights immediately shouted, "Everyone's fine, sir." Williams nodded and continued, "Good, return quickly." The knights obeyed, "Yes, sir." He looked around thoughtfully. In the distance, a sword was pulled from the monster's body. Cyan stepped on its body's side and sheathed his sword. Willius approached and asked, "How could you adjust to survive your very first battle?" Cyan bowed respectfully and answered, "I learn something new every day, Father." Of course, Willius didn't believe him and said, "Is that all? I thought you wanted to return to the family quickly." Willius smiled gently. "You've endured here quite a while. I'm proud of what you've done on this battlefield." Cyan was shocked, thinking, "What? He's proud of me." William turned to leave with Eugene, telling him before going, "Tomorrow I have something to discuss with you. Come to my tent early in the morning." Cyan replied, "Yes, father." Still caught off guard by the sudden praise, he thought, "Father has never treated me this well before, not even in my past life." Night fell again. A giant monster swung its tail, smashing around Cyan's feet. Sliding back, he gritted his teeth and stared at the monster before him. Seeing this huge, writhing creature, Cyan immediately recognized it as a death worm, creatures that only appear deep within this valley. Karam quietly suggested to his master, "It seems you're struggling. Please switch places with me. Let me take your body into battle." Cyan disdainfully said, "Switch places with you? Do you think I don't know what you want?" Karam confidently replied, "I swear it will only take a moment, and I'll switch back to you." Blue veins pulsed grotesquely over the deathworm's body, its wounds healing. Seizing the chance, Karam persuaded C. It immediately recovers its injuries. Continuing to attack would be pointless. Yes, Cyan also realized the problem worrying now. That's true, continuing this won't work. It had been a month since he went to the front line, recalling the monsters he had defeated. Cyan thought, "I've drunk the blood of countless monsters, but it's still not enough." Facing the giant monster charging at him, Cyan sighed and accepted it. He seriously said, "I agree to switch places with you, even if you have other plans." Karam happily said, "Good, let's move." Cyan used the Ninth Awakening Mist technique, the Demon's Sword Burst. With Karam occupying his body, he struck the monster with a single slash. Cyan thought, "I will tear your thick skin to shreds." The death worm screamed in pain. Cyan jumped into the air under the bright moonlight. He continued using the Mist Sword technique, blossom/cutting, hard from top to bottom along the length of the worm. The monster was sliced in half. Cyan took the opportunity to deliver many more slashes, completely destroying the creature. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a group was inspecting the corpses of monsters that had been dead on this land for a while. Eugene led the knights, assessing the residual magical energy here, which seemed very strong. Possibly a demon had caused this. Willius looked at this blood on his hand and agreed, "We can't take this lightly if it involves the demon tribe." He immediately ordered a search of the area and destruction of these bodies. The knights shouted their orders. Looking at the wound on the demonic dog's neck, Willius pondered, "This slash looks very familiar. Or am I mistaken?" Willius frowned, not wanting to think further. Suddenly, Eugene behind called out, "Sir, you should see this." Willius went to him and asked curiously, "Is this a Yunkin?" He nodded yes, it was a death worm. Looking at the tragedy of the high-level monster before him, Willius was horrified. Who could have done this to it? He worriedly thought maybe it was that organization. Meanwhile, on Sheen's side, he was thinking about the recent event. The Demon Sword incarnation allowed Karam to control his body and unleash full power, but Xiang could still control the body if she remained alert in battle. Recalling that scene, Cyan lay on the bed thinking, "That's why I allowed her to control me when fighting the monsters. I drank all the monsters' blood, and after defeating them, my strength has increased a bit. If it had been a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle it." Cyan held his head and sat up groaning. "My body hurts so much." Suddenly, Karam spoke. "I understand." It flew over confidently and said, "You look like a kid, but you don't talk or act like one. When you fought alongside me, you were quick and skilled, and you know the geography of the Limi Valley very well. Your swordsmanship is as if you've been training for at least 35 years. Also, you said you died once before, right?" "I'm sure of it." Karam smirked wickedly at Cyan's surprised face and asked him, "You were reincarnated, right?" Unexpectedly, after hearing that conclusion from him, Cyan looked at Karam like he was an idiot. "I already said I died once, it's obvious." Karam, embarrassed and angry, yelled, "How is that obvious when you never explained it to me?" Cyan coldly replied, "I'm too lazy." When Karam was speechless and suspicious. "Anyway, killing someone like you isn't easy. I guess you were killed by the Duran Rack's owner, either in a one-on-one fight or by betrayal." Karam's guesses were all accurate. Cyan's face darkened immediately as Karam confidently said, "I feel it's probably the second one." Cyan asked suspiciously, "Why do you think that?" Karam explained, "You despise the Holy Sword, so I guess you have no affection for it." Realizing he guessed right, Karam flew in front of Cyan and said, "So whatever your revenge plan is, remember if I find out you fail or lose heart, I will swallow you whole." Karam laughed proudly, threatening him. Cyan calmly swatted him away and mocked, "Absorb me. I'm not stupid enough for you to do that." Karam was slammed into the bookshelf dizzy and with a headache fainted on the floor. Cyan chuckled, thinking, "He hasn't changed at all, still the same personality as in my previous life." With nothing else to do, he stepped out of the tent and looked around at everyone tense. Cyan wondered, what's going on? Everything seems chaotic. Emily suddenly ran up. "Young master, you're awake." Cyan asked her, "Emily, what's happening?" Emily immediately replied, "Sir, we suddenly found the corpse of a high-level monster. It's lying at the entrance of the valley." Cyan was startled and tense, thinking she meant that worm monster, afraid he wouldn't understand. Emily explained the serious issue. It's been a long time since such a monster appeared near the camp area. Cyan asked if there was anything else. Emily responded with a puzzled no. Cyan hurriedly asked again if there was anything else besides that. Like a suspicious person spotted or something about me. Suddenly Yoon came over, calling for young Master Cyan. He respectfully bowed and said, "The Duke wants to see you right now." Cyan worriedly thought, "This is bad. I can't deal with that huge monster corpse right now." Remembering the pile of corpses left, he silently thought it's because the patrol soldiers suddenly showed up. Cyan gritted his teeth, worried about his plan to enjoy life before entering the academy. He went into Willius's tent, bowed respectfully, and reported, "Father, I have arrived." Cyan hoped his father wouldn't realize it was him who did it. Willius called him over. "Cyan, sit down." Seeing his father's serious face, Cyan thought, if he asks about yesterday, how should I explain it? Cyan pressed his lips and looked at Willius. Then Willius sat opposite Cyan and began the interrogation. I'll be straightforward. What did you do last night? Cyan awkwardly replied, I went to bed early because I was too tired. Willius was suspicious, recalling what he saw last night. Going to bed early, but those slash marks are clearly Cyan's swordsmanship. He frowned, staring straight at Cyan. Have I overthought this? Cyan put on an innocent, worried face and asked why his father asked that. Willius looked at him, thinking it's hard to believe a kid like this could handle a death worm. Moreover, seeing Willius silence Cyan anxiously asked, Father, is something worrying you? Willius continued observing him and replied, You probably heard about what happened near the camp last night, right? He probed further, I still have to investigate, but it seems there's evidence of activity from the secret assassin organization called Mist. Cyan tensed, his face serious, asked Mist. Willius explained, It's an organization that has existed for 1,000 years. No one knows their true purpose, but they've assassinated countless nobles under the guise of purification. Wherever they went, there was always a characteristic black bone mist, but one day they completely disappeared. The last time they were active was 300 years ago. But last night, the death worm was covered in a black bone mist. The black bone mist is the trace left by the god Eru, the god of darkness, revered by the Bone Mist organization. And it's also the root of their power. Willius asserts that, if my guess is correct, that death worm was created by them and killed by the monsters. Listening to Willius's analysis, Sheen was incredibly tense. Just from that, Father could already guess who was behind this. Although that organization was last seen 300 years ago, yes. Willius didn't know what he was thinking. He seriously warned that the reason for their reappearance was unknown, but I must be careful. I will report this to the king and investigate further. Cyan obediently replied, Yes, Father. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking maybe Father believed him now. Indeed, Williams was thinking that it would be ridiculous if Shin were involved with this organization, especially since he was still so young. Thinking this, Williams said, That's all then? Suddenly he asked, So who came to visit today? Cyan answered honestly, I heard the king was supposed to visit, but it was meant to be today. Then Williams smiled and said, I also want to ask you for a favor. Cyan asked, What is it, sir? Outside knights lifted their horns and blew the sound echoing everywhere. The king has arrived. Willius led the entire army to kneel and salute the Lord of Velius. Welcome, your majesty, the king. Riding up with a joyful face, he called out to Willius. The king jumped down from his horse and helped Willius, who was kneeling on the ground. The king sincerely said, We've been old friends, so no need for formalities. Willius replied seriously, But your majesty. Suddenly the king looked behind Willius and asked, Oh, is that the child here? Father Cyan knelt respectfully and said, It is an honor, your majesty, the king. I am Shin First, the youngest member of the first family. The king looked at him gently and praised him, so young yet already out fighting. Your children are truly exceptional. Cyan thought hopelessly, wondering what Father wanted him to do. Who knew Father just wanted him to introduce himself? He recalled how in his past life he always had to hide whenever the king arrived. Being trusted by Father like this was really touching. He thought of himself on the upper floor, excitedly looking out the window, saying to Emily, Look, Emily, it's the king. Back then, Emily would pull him away, saying, Come inside, young master. Suddenly, the king spoke, Splendid. I also want to introduce someone else. On the carriage steps, a small-footed, white-haired princess appeared, bowing and introducing herself. This is the 5th princess of the Yusuf kingdom, Aaron Siberus. Cyan recognized her immediately, Aaron Severus, the tragic 5th princess. He recalled Father had requested that he escort Princess Aaron. That day, Shin didn't understand the reason and asked, What? How so? Willius didn't say much, only instructing him not to worry and just follow closely behind her. She's about your age. When you enter the academy, you'll meet her again. Cyan lowered his head, remembering he had met her a few times before in classes at the academy in his past life. Willius continued to advise that getting familiar with the royal family wouldn't hurt and wouldn't last long. But I want you to get close to her. Cyan hated the idea, thinking I really don't want to, but I understand Father's intention. Maybe he wants me to have a relationship like his with the king. He sighed thoughtfully, but Father had chosen the wrong person. She can never be my friend. Cyan was helpless, though he couldn't say why, because it was the future only he knew. It was indeed annoying, but he would pretend to comply. Thinking this, he followed Willius and the king's group ahead. Suddenly a moan sounded next to Cyan's ear. Aaron coldly asked, Why is that river red? Cyan wondered, Do you mean the Blood River? Hearing the name of the river, Aaron was suspicious. The Blood River, Cyan explained, it runs all through the Limi Valley. There's no complicated reason for the river to be red. Old monsters that are badly wounded and near death, unable to survive, instinctively jump into the river of blood. Then their bodies decompose along the river, transforming into mana and turning the river red. Aaron was startled after hearing that. So it's all real blood and flesh. Cyan coldly answered yes, and they also drink and bathe in that river water, so it's disgusting. Stay away from that river. Aaron's face showed clear disgust. That's awful. So what's at the end of the river? Cyan continued the demon realm. Aaron asked the demon realm, the place where demons live. Cyan teased with a smile, yes, if you follow this river, you might even meet the demon king. Cyan smirked wickedly. But who's crazy enough to do that? Just trying to scare her a little. Suddenly, the sky lit up brightly. A flare was fired into the sky. Aaron asked curiously, what's that light? Cyan explained, that's the signal from the third plantation to the west, marked in yellow. It signals the appearance of demon beasts. His expression darkened seriously. Aaron was shocked. There are monsters here. Meanwhile, Williams was ordering the knights guarding the king escort and scout the third plantation to the west with me. Suddenly, the king spoke. Don't do that, Williams. Williams called out in doubt to the king. The king drew his sword coldly. Hi, do you think I came here just to sightsee? I'm feeling very bored. Yes, Willius understands. He sighed helplessly and replied, yes, your majesty. The king looked down and ordered his subordinates. We will join the raid against the demons and kill every last one of them. The knights responded with a loud, yes, your majesty. Willius turned to Cyan and said, you will participate too. Cyan quickly replied, yes, father. Aaron worriedly asked if he could fight the demon beasts. Cyan nodded yes, but only as support from behind. You should take refuge. Unexpectedly, Aaron said, take me with you. Cyan was surprised. What did this girl just say? The maid beside her also disagreed and wanted to advise, but princess. However, Aaron shouted, you said you're my age, so I want to go too. Cyan warned, it's deadly serious, not a place to play. Aaron shouted angrily, I don't care, I want to go. No one can stop me. Cyan called out irritably to Unkyun. Unkyun quickly came and said, yes, young master. Unkyun, the royal knight, will escort the princess to a safe place. He turned to Aaron and said, let's go, princess. Aaron suddenly turned and pointed at Cyan, scolding, traitor. How dare you treat the princess so disrespectfully? Cyan glared at her impatiently. Many knights might die just because of your stubbornness. A single foolish moment can decide life or death on the battlefield. So are you willing to take responsibility for those lives? Cyan's aura was incredibly strong. That scared Aaron. She teared up her body, trembling in waves. Cyan ignored her and turned away. Come back and cry, like a child, princess. In the end, only young Khan, Aaron, and the maid remained standing there. A giant monster attacked its body like slims. It swallowed countless knights. Others surrounded and attacked the monster together. A sword was raised along with an order, protect the king's formation and kill them all. Spare no demons. William loudly rallied the knights, and the army charged into battle immediately. Dionysus, king of the U-ship kingdom, has 2 wives. Diana Quizeo was the first wife, but she has passed away. Cassandra Napos is the concubine and considered the powerful judge of the kingdom. The former queen gave birth to 2 grand princesses and 2 princesses. The current queen is the mother of the 3rd and 4th princes. However, Aaron Severus, the 5th princess, is the daughter of lowly birth. Her mother was a commoner. She was treated like a puppet princess because of her foreign bloodline. But she didn't care about outsiders' opinions and always fulfilled her duties as a member of the royal family. Always studied harder than anyone else. But she was labeled a traitor by jealous people and then expelled by the royal family in the kingdom. Rumor has it the princess died alone from an illness on the island. That's why people call her the tragic princess. She would have lived a happy life if she hadn't been greedy. Someone like her is better off living without ambition. After hearing the story, Karam wondered, didn't your father always say that to you in your past life? Cyan was slaying monsters while contradicting him. Politics within the royal family have always been like that. The monster was struck by lightning magic. Watching the snail monsters fall one by one, Cyan admired Duke Kwa must be a talented person. The sword blade covered in lightning struck the ground. Dion wielded the sword using the holy lightning technique. Immediately a bolt of thunder struck the monster. Cyan witnessed everything and marveled, thinking Emperor Dion was famous as an 8th-level mage. If he hadn't ascended the throne, he would have become the head of the Mage Association. Looking at Dion's powerful silhouette was completely different from Willius. Cyan gave a helpless smile, thinking a mid-level monster was nothing to him. Probably being king is just a hobby for him. After finishing, they set out the wine. Looking at the bottle on the table, Dion remarked, it's been a while since we've had a drink together, hasn't it? William said drinking alone feels lonely. Willius seriously replied, forgive me, your majesty. I am not allowed to drink on the battlefield. Suddenly, Dion asked, by the way, you asked me about the recent situation in the kingdom. There have been many noble assassinations lately. That's worrying. Willius frowned and asked, do the assassination cases have anything in common? Dion replied, yes, his face serious. He said all the nobles killed were corrupt officials, and that black fog appeared everywhere at the crime scenes. What do you think? Willius rubbed his chin thoughtfully. William began to recount the situation here. Yesterday I found traces of them here. It seems the assassin cult following the Black Fog Society is active again. Dion nodded in agreement. Makes sense, but you need to investigate carefully. Dion cheerfully poured wine, saying thanks for dealing with that trash. Willius reminded him, but I can't just sit and watch them always worried. Suddenly Dion spoke again. There's one more thing that bothers me. Willius asked curiously. What is it? Dion slowly said. Those damn nobles keep blaming the 5 princesses. Willius was shocked and understood his meaning. They intentionally pinned those crimes on Princess Erin, didn't they? Dion recounted, I rejected those rumors to shut them up, but it seems a faction wants to use the girl. Dion seriously instructed, I want to entrust you with something as a friend, not as a king. If I leave before you take care of her, Willius solemnly replied, I, Willius, first obey your majesty's command. Dion was pleased, saying thank you. Outside, heavy rain was pouring. Emily suddenly asked, is that all? Sayan was puzzled, wondering what else she expected. Emily hurriedly said, she is the princess. You just escorted her here. With this crowd, you won't be getting married anytime soon. Seeing Emily's angry expression, Sion was confused, thinking, I'm not going on a date. Sayan stepped out of the tent and before leaving, reminded her, while I'm away on business, I'm counting on you. Emily asked, are you going to train? It's raining heavily. Sayan advised, don't worry and don't wait for me. Suddenly, a figure appeared ahead through the rain. Emily screamed in fear. Who's there? The cloak was dropped and the person asked, hey, where are you headed? Erin asked seriously. Sorry, but if you're not busy, can you talk with me for a moment? Emily immediately became excited, her eyes shining, calling out, Princess. Outside the camp tent, countless guards were watching. In the rain, Erin looked around and asked, how long have you been here? Sion coldly replied, about a month. Then he asked, why did you come to see me? Erin hesitated, nervously glancing at him. Erin turned to look at Emily, who was excited, then hesitated, and asked her to give them some privacy to talk. She kept staring at Sayan, embarrassed, and ordered Emily to go outside. Emily happily left, smiling and saying, all right, have fun, you two. As soon as Emily left, the atmosphere became quiet and tense. Sayan disdainfully thought, having fun with a 10-year-old kid, no way, I'm already 40. At this moment, Erin shyly spoke up, her cheeks flushing red. I'm sorry for earlier. I feel like I didn't behave like a proper princess. Sayan scratched his head and replied, don't worry, I'm sorry for being rude too. Seeing his apologetic demeanor, Erin chuckled and said, no, it's not me, it's you, you'd say the same. Her expression darkened. You're recognized by so many people unlike me, and you're much more mature. Sayan slightly raised his eyebrows, a bit surprised, thinking, so that's her personality. Suddenly Erin spoke, are you planning to join the academy too, or perhaps she guessed his intention? Sayan coldly refused. Sorry, but I don't think I can help you. Erin was startled and shocked. Sayan continued, if you came to make friends, then please leave. Erin nervously said, I just want us to have a good relationship. You're so difficult. Or do you also think I'm just a princess in name only? At this point, Erin's expression changed. Tears streamed down her face. No, Sayan said nothing, neither refuting nor explaining. Erin cried miserably. I understand. Being friends with me brings you no benefit at all. Sorry for wasting your time. I must be blind. I thought at least we could talk, but you're nothing like Lord Archer. The familiar name suddenly echoed, and Sayan froze stunned. He quickly turned to look at her. Did she just say that? Anger surged, and Sayan grabbed her arm. His strength made Erin cry out in pain, unable to break free from his grip. Erin shouted. What do you want? Sayan coldly asked. It's okay. You know my brother. Erin painfully held her arm and replied, last year walking around the Royal Academy, I met him. He advised me not to care about others' thoughts and just focus on being a princess. Sayan's eyes went blank. He couldn't believe his ears. Advise that bastard devil. I know him better than anyone. From the moment she met him, everything was arranged. The plan to overthrow Princess Erin. Sayan gritted his teeth and hissed, I'm warning you. Suddenly, a loud noise outside interrupted their conversation. Emily hurriedly ran over from afar, calling out to the young master. She shouted urgently, Sir, run, but it was too late. From above the tent, roof collapsed as a monster wielding a pole smashed directly into Sayan's tent right in front of Emily. The surrounding knights shouted in panic, Damn it, it's the young master's tent. Hurry, check if the young master is in danger. Emily collapsed to her knees, her throat choking up, unable to speak. She cried and screamed desperately, "Young master." The call echoed through the camp but did not soften the monster's heart. At the same time at Willius and Dion's tent, after hearing the report from their subordinates, both were astonished. "What?" Dion's expression darkened as he asked, "What did you say, Knight?" They immediately replied, "High-level monsters just ambushed the border camp, Your Majesty." Thinking the princess was there, Dion hurriedly stood up and ordered all royal troops to rush to the camp immediately. "We must ensure the princess's safety." The knights quickly acknowledged, "Yes, Your Majesty." Dion pondered, "Is the girl really at the camp? Who is she meeting?" On the other side, the monsters were wreaking havoc together. They carried weapons and patrolled around the camp. Saiyan observed from the side, assessing the death demons and ogres. They usually live deeper in the valley, but suddenly appearing here means something has changed. Behind him were Emily, Aaron, and other knights hiding, waiting for the chance to counterattack. Just as Saiyan wondered if it was because of him, Emily called out, tears streaming down her face. "Young master, I thought you were really gone. From now on, I will never leave you again." Back then, as the tent roof was slammed down, Saiyan's reflex was to quickly grab Aaron and run out of the tent. He snorted disdainfully. "Back in the day, I even killed the Demon King, but these ox-like creatures act like they can kill me." Suddenly, Aaron asked, "Do you think the knights in the camp are all right?" Emily's eyes shone brightly as she confidently replied, "Princess, don't worry, the knights are very strong." Meanwhile, Aaron covered her mouth and sobbed, "If I hadn't come, this wouldn't have happened." Seeing this, the knights around hurried to comfort her. "We're fine, Princess. Protecting you as knights of the kingdom is our duty." Another knight smiled brightly in agreement. "He's right, Princess. We will protect you with our lives." The scene was touching when suddenly Sheen shouted, "Move aside." From behind that knight appeared a gigantic hand that squeezed him tightly, making him cough up blood. Just like that, right in front of Aaron, the knight who just swore to protect her was grabbed by the monster, and a terrible scream echoed. Before Aaron could react, Saiyan quickly rushed to stand in front of her. "Step back, monster." Smirking as if he had found his target just by that gesture, Saiyan confirmed it. He knew the monster was aiming for him. The monster threw that knight away and stepped forward. Saiyan quickly ordered the others, "I'll distract the demon orb. You take the princess and run." Emily immediately obeyed, "Yes." Saiyan hesitated for a moment, sensing Emily was running off while holding someone. The veins on Saiyan's face bulged. Annoyed, he thought, "Is she really in such a hurry?" Emily held Aaron and didn't forget to call the remaining knight. "What are you still doing? Let's go." The monster, having waited long enough, roared angrily and raised its hand to strike down. Saiyan gripped his sword tightly and charged forward. He quickly jumped and slashed at the attacking monster, wondering why these high-level monsters kept targeting him as if they could sense something from him. Karam crawled out laughing and reminding, "You drank the blood of countless monsters to become stronger. That's why you smell like them. It's surprising they don't target you." Saiyan said angrily, "You knew this too. Why didn't you tell me until now?" Karam grinned wickedly. "Did you forget what I want as your body?" Saiyan mercilessly squeezed Karam, making him cry out in pain. He stopped running away and then summoned the demon sword. Karam was startled. "What are you doing?" Saiyan impatiently snapped, "Shut up." Karam begged, "Please treat me more gently." Shane stood before a monster 10 times his size and coldly replied, "I don't care how many monsters target me." Sheen charged forward as the demon ox simultaneously swung its fist. He quickly jumped into the air and slashed fiercely, roaring. With just one cut, Saiyan sliced off the demon ox's head and landed lightly as if performing an art piece. Saiyan sighed in relief. No one's watching now. Time to drink some high-level monster blood. Around him were countless fierce monsters. Karam excitedly exclaimed, "Like a grand feast." Suddenly, Saiyan's face turned alarmed. "Wait there." From a distant rock, a monster landed. Jean recognized in horror an evil dragon. The evil dragon roared angrily. Karam calmly countered, "No, it's still young. It probably smells you too." Saiyan smiled slyly, thinking, "Why the dragon appears here doesn't matter. What matters is that I catch it." His body was shrouded in a red mist. Karam said in surprise, "Hey, I only heard Saiyan order you. You must catch it. No, you have to eat it." He pointed his sword at the evil dragon. Elsewhere, the demon oxen were struck by countless lightning bolts. "Yes, Dion has finished." Another asked, "Is this the last one?" William nodded and replied, "Yes, it seems so." Dion frowned and asked, "What about the princess and your son?" Willius replied worriedly, "I haven't seen any trace of them outside the tent." Dion sighed and comforted, "It's all right. You must be very worried about your son." Willius frowned. "What's there to worry about the boy?" The most important thing is the princess. Dion asked puzzled, "You're so cold. Is the boy really your biological son?" Ma, Willius coldly said, "Family members thrown away must learn to protect themselves." At that moment, a royal knight ran over to report, "Your Majesty, we have found the princess." Dion was surprised. "Really?" Aaron ran over calling for her father. Dion hurried to her and worriedly asked, "Are you hurt?" Aaron hurriedly said, "Hurry, father, I have to save him." Dion asked curiously, "Save who?" Aaron tearfully answered, "Cyan for me, that's who." Behind Willius was dark-faced. Dion tensely said, "Calm down and tell me everything." Willius stood before Emily and asked, "You're Cyan's servant, right?" Emily immediately replied, "Yes, it's me, sir." Willius's eyes were full of sharpness as he asked, "Tell me what happened to Cyan." Emily was frightened by his aura, thinking, "So scary, I've never seen the Duke this intimidating." She hurriedly answered, "The young master acted as bait to buy us time to escape." Willius's eyes narrowed even more. The knight beside him quickly spoke up, "I remember exactly where he was at that time. Just give the order, and I, along with others, will go rescue the young master." Dion urged, "What are you waiting for? William, hurry up." Unexpectedly, William said 2 words, "No need." The whole group stared at him in shock, and Dion asked in disbelief, "William, are you serious?" But Willius calmly said, "I need to handle the situation first. If the camp falls, the monsters will flood into the kingdom. I have to rebuild this place immediately. This is the only way to prevent further casualties." Emily couldn't believe her ears, panicking as she asked, "What about the young master?" Willius coldly replied, "He fulfilled his duty by keeping the princess safe. That's how family members are treated." Aaron was horrified and scared. Why is that?" She desperately blamed herself. "It's still my fault." Just then a roar echoed everywhere, frightening the group. Hearing this, Aaron fearfully looked up at the sky. "Is that the sound of a dragon?" They saw in the sky the evil dragon confronting Cyan. Suddenly, Aaron's eyes widened as she called out his name. "Cyan!" It turned out that Cyan was holding onto the leg of the flying evil dragon, clutching its leg tightly while crying in fear. Dragons are creatures closest to the Creator. They are noble beings, rarely seen even once in a lifetime. They are supreme creatures that lowly beings like humans can hardly approach. Meanwhile, Sainver was fighting inside, thinking it was an honor to be battling alongside such a noble creature. "But why does it keep flying back and forth to a place I can't see?" Aaron Severus observed from below and saw the large dragon flying back and forth, suddenly noticing something. Severus, with tears in his eyes, frantically called out, "Cyan the king and Cyan's father the duke." They could not believe it. The king was stunned, saying it was unbelievable that it was a dragon. Then he asked Duke Vought Velat why his son had climbed onto that dragon. "What are you waiting for? Why don't you save him?" Despite the king's words, Duke Vought furrowed his brows, his eyes full of deep thought. Meanwhile, Cyan was still trying to control the dragon. He thought angrily, "Damn it, I really want to drink its blood. Didn't expect things to turn out like this." At this moment, the dragon seemed to change, becoming more ferocious. Cyan observed and concluded it was an evil dragon adapted for battle. Cyan transformed into another form, pointing his sword at the dragon and said he must eat it. Then, facing the monsters swarming in Cyan, loudly ordered, "All of you get out. Now, I don't have time for you." Cyan used the sword and the storm mist blade technique, killing many monsters with a single strike. The space was filled with screams of pain. After dealing with the monsters, Cyan flew toward the dragon and looked at the fierce creature before him, saying it was not a fully grown dragon. Its size proved that. The dragon gathered its power in its mouth and exhaled a breath. Cyan was hit and pushed backward. He struggled to keep his balance and angrily cursed, "Damn bastard dragon, I've just met you, and you dare spit in my face. Then I'll slash your face." As soon as he finished, Cyan's sword carved 2 clear slashes on the dragon's face. The wounds caused it to roar and thrash wildly. Cyan was also thrown far away. Despite that, the dragon didn't stop attacking. Its sharp tail aimed at Cyan as he fell, but he reacted quickly. Cyan used the Void Sword, followed by 8 Blossom Slash, hitting the dragon twice in a row. The dragon lost its ability to attack and collapsed. Having defeated one opponent, Cyan massaged his arm and breathed heavily, saying he couldn't ride it anymore. His shoulders were too sore. Time was almost up. Realizing time was passing quickly, Cyan gripped his sword tightly and looked ahead. Though injured, the dragon was still very strong. It had flown up and was ready to attack Cyan. Cyan is cautious this time. "I think we won't fall into the trap a second time." Just as he was about to attack, the dragon suddenly turned and flew in another direction, surprising Sheen, who screamed and ran away, then stopped and said, "Don't even think about running." saying that he immediately chased after it. After a while, Sion caught up with the dragon, breathing a sigh of relief, thinking, I caught up with it, lucky indeed. So now how do we handle this situation? Sion was now on the dragon's back, thinking of ways to deal with it. At that moment, Karam appeared annoyed, asking Sion what was going on and why he wasn't doing anything. Sion didn't understand Karam's meaning and replied irritably, What do you mean? Don't you see the people below are watching us? This didn't satisfy Karam. Instead, she got angry and shouted, So what if you've chosen me? Then you should do something about it. Sion wasn't backing down either. He argued, Do you want me to use the demon sword to kill everyone down there? If they saw what I did, they'd burn me alive. No, Karam refused, continuing. So what are you just going to cling to the dragon forever? Sion replied, I'm thinking of a way, aren't I? Meanwhile, below, Duke Vut was doing something with the sword in his hand. Sion immediately realized and thought in shock, That's 8-star magic. Is he planning to use the heavenly secret sword, especially knowing his son is about to be taken away? Duke Vut set up a formation below. Above, the dragon flew to where he was standing. Without hesitation, Duke Vut attacked when the target entered position. Sion was delighted, thinking Father truly deserves the title of the continent's guardian. Father the dragon flew to Duke Vut and can't fly any farther away. It was immediately struck by each sword slash. Sitting on the dragon's back, Sion proudly said, Oh yes, that's my obedient dragon. He was trying to find a way off the dragon's back when suddenly a sword from his father's formation flew toward him. Sion wanted to both escape the dragon's back and avoid the sword attack, saying dodge it. But apparently things didn't go as he hoped. He anxiously said, I don't think you should dodge it that way. The sword pierced one of the dragon's legs. Sion fell off the dragon's back. Now falling freely, he regretted and covered his face, saying, Damn it, can't believe I missed the chance to enjoy a special meal. Sion thought about the dragon meat meal, unaware he was falling freely. At that moment, Karam appeared angrily, saying, What are you doing? Fly up? Do you want to kiss the ground? Sion remained calm, replying, I can't. If I use the mist technique, I'll be short of breath. Karam angrily shouted, Then just fall and die. Sion smirked jokingly, I don't know, maybe I should reconsider. Sion glanced behind with a spark in his eyes. Sion turned around, his face excited, saying, Wait, I have a plan. Karam, confused, asked, You don't want to kiss the ground, right? Looking down, Karam saw they were about to land in a lake. She suspiciously asked, Is that water? Sion didn't explain and replied, There's no other choice, saying that they both plunged into the lake below. Even though Karam didn't want to be elsewhere, someone was watching. It was the Demon King watching the dragon flying in the sky. He spoke, A fierce dragon flying around here, what a rare sight. Another person behind also spoke, but more quietly. Looks like it lost its prey because of trouble. The Demon King continued, Seems to be a pretty strong demon beast. But the person with him replied, No, it's a human. This surprised the Demon King. He questioned, You? Impossible. A fierce dragon wouldn't lose to a human. After this, everyone fell into deep thought. The person with the Demon King asked, What's going on? The Demon King pointed ahead and said, I sense a strange energy there. Though strange, it's somewhat familiar. The companion suggested, Then let's go check it out, but also reminded the Demon King, Please don't kill recklessly just because you're bored. The Demon King was all too happy. He replied casually, all right, I won't cause trouble. Then he spread his wings wide and flew away. Underneath near Shun, many bubbles surfaced in the water. After a moment, Shane emerged from the water. He used his strength to climb onto the shore. Then exhausted, he sat leaning against the rock wall. Sheen seemed to be hurt somewhere there. He slightly frowned, not forgetting to curse. The Saiyan turned to his right and asked Karam if she was still alive. Karam was still as gruff as ever. She replied, Don't open your mouth to talk to me. I'm thinking of a way to kill you. Hearing this, the Saiyan sat up seriously and said, Don't be crazy. I have to go back there. Karam didn't really care, but still suspiciously asked again, So you really want to go back? Let's go together. This is the demon realm. The Saiyan understood Karam's meaning. He replied, No need to worry. There's no reason to encounter a high-level demon in a place like this. Just as Saiyan finished speaking, a voice rose up. I knew it. I knew some fun was waiting for me. This voice made Saiyan a little uneasy. His eyes widened. Saiyan thought he remembered this voice. It had always been deeply engraved in his mind, and even now he couldn't forget it. The Demon King was now standing behind Saiyan. Looking at him suspiciously, he asked, Are you a human? Saiyan already had the answer in his head. This voice belonged to Demon King Valkyrian. Seisin recalled from the past that everyone who had met him said it felt like looking into the embodiment of evil itself, exactly the being standing before him now. Damn it, why now? Thinking that Saiyan immediately snapped into a guarded stance, gripping his sharp sword tightly and pointing it forward. The Demon King, a bit irritated, shouted at Saiyan, "I asked if you are human. Why didn't you answer me?" The Demon King's eyes narrowed, his pupils turning a deep red. At this point, the Demon King was losing his temper, no longer calm. He yelled, "You brat, you want to fight me?" Saiyan glanced at the sword in his hand, then looked behind him without hesitation, slashing at the Demon King. The sword cut off a strand of the Demon King's hair that fell to the ground. Instead of anger, the Demon King laughed heartily and said, "I've heard humans have unlimited potential. It seems that's true, huh?" The demon sword, in Saiyan's hand, asked, "This might be an awkward question now, but who is that?" Saiyan replied, "The Demon King, Hearing this, the Demon King got a little startled and exclaimed, "The Demon King? With your current state, how do you plan to defeat him?" Saiyan knew it was impossible, so he figured his only option was to try to run away. Saiyan's hand tightened around the sword. In his mind, he thought, "But can I survive when my opponent is Valkyrion?" While thinking, the Demon King said to Saiyan, "Hey, calm down. What can a little brat like you do to me? Relax." Seeing Saiyan wasn't convinced, the Demon King changed his tone, lying down with a sincere expression. He said, "Look, I won't hurt you, seriously. If you're that scared, I can lie down and talk to you. Even a scoundrel wouldn't fight a kid." These words and actions confused Saiyan. He wondered, why did he just lie down all of a sudden? The Demon King said to Saiyan, "Let me ask again, are you human?" Saiyan answered yes. The Demon King continued, "How did you get here?" Saiyan replied, "By following the river's flow." The Demon King didn't stop and asked again, "So this is your first time in the demon realm? There's a strange aura around you. Who are you?" Saiyan remained cautious and carefully answered, "Just an ordinary human." The Demon King repeated with interest, "An ordinary human." Then he added, "But it seems you know who I am." Saiyan was sweating but still replied, "We've never met." The Demon King turned his body to lie back, calmly resting his head on his hands, and said, "That's true, this is the first time I've seen a human. When else would you meet me?" Seeing the Demon King's casual attitude as if nothing had happened, Saiyan grew more cautious and asked, "Why are you here?" In his mind, he wondered about this calm demeanor. Was he really the Demon King he knew? The Demon King answered, "I sensed a strange energy while patrolling around." Saiyan asked back, "Patrolling?" The Demon King explained, "That's right. As the Demon King, of course, I have to oversee the territory I rule." Then suddenly he sat up, laughed foolishly, and asked Saiyan, "Hey kid, what did I just say?" Saiyan repeated what he heard. "As the Demon King, you have to oversee the territory you rule." After Saiyan repeated it, the Demon King asked naively, "Aren't you surprised I am the Demon King?" Then he jumped up angrily and shouted, "I know you've heard of me somewhere before. What kind of kid could react like you do? Has your mother never scared you by saying if you don't obey the Demon King, he'll take you away?" These words and actions made Saiyan even more certain that this guy was not the Demon King he once knew. Saiyan recalled and thought, if things go like in my past life, the demon invasion is about to happen. But this guy doesn't seem like the type to do that. If this is his true nature, then what caused him to change? A flood of thoughts surged through Saiyan's mind. Saiyan asked the Demon King, "If you really are the Demon King, what is the wish you want to fulfill?" The Demon King laughed and asked Saiyan back, "You dare ask the Demon King such a question, bold of you?" The Demon King rubbed his neck and replied, "It's nothing much. I just want my people to eat well and live comfortably, but if anyone dares block my path, I will kill them all. That's the duty of the Demon King." His words were filled with murderous intent, striking straight into Saiyan's mind. Saiyan thought for just a moment, but he was sure he sensed the true ferocious face of Valkyrion he had known in his previous life, now restrained, but definitely something must have happened to break the chains binding that face. I need to stop that from happening. After thinking, Saiyan asked the Demon King, "Hey, Demon King, do you want to make a deal with me?" Saiyan said that something is going to happen to him soon and it will threaten the people in his territory. The Demon King frowned and looked at Saiyan, saying, "What are you talking about?" "I don't understand a thing." Saiyan continued, "I don't know what it is, but I'm certain something will spark a great war between humans and demons." These words angered the Demon King. His teeth clenched, his pupils changed color, and he asked Saiyan nearly word by word, "You mean I want to seize your lands?" Saiyan calmly replied in the face of this pressure, "That's why I want to negotiate with you. So promise me that no matter what happens, you won't start a war." The Demon King, though not understanding what Saiyan meant, agreed, "What nonsense are you talking about? Fine, let's say I won't start a war. In return, what will you give me?" Hearing this, Saiyan smiled with satisfaction and said, "I will help you no matter what happens. I will do my best to assist you." Saiyan's face was serious and sincere. Hearing these words, the Demon King stepped closer to Saiyan, looked at him, and said, "You know something?" Being seen through like that made Saiyan a bit tense, but then the Demon King smiled and asked, "What's your name?" Saiyan answered, "Saiyan Vut." The Demon King continued, "All right, Saiyan, as the ruler of the demon realm, I promise you that no matter what happens, I will not invade your land." Saying this, the Demon King spread his wings, flew up into the air, intending to leave, but didn't forget to remind, "But you should also be responsible for your own promise. After all, we now have an agreement between us." Then Saiyan looked at the Demon King with determined eyes. Understanding, the Demon King smiled faintly and said, "Very well, the pact is sealed." After making the pact with the Demon King, the investigation team easily found Saiyan unconscious, and he successfully returned. Later, Saiyan learned that he was nicknamed the boy who survived under the claws of the evil dragon. They returned to a monastery on the Velius border, which was temporarily being used as a military hospital. Saiyan was being treated there. He was awake and heard some news that surprised him, so he asked, "What?" Captain Sever said to Saiyan, "Let me repeat it again." Saiyan was both surprised and a bit tense, thinking to himself that he had assumed everything was resolved peacefully. Then Sobok stammered, "You will, later with her," mustering all his courage to say, "You will become mine, right?" Hearing this, Sobok froze, thinking, what is she even saying? Sobok's straight response stunned him. Then sadly, with eyes moist, she said, "Of course I'm a hopeless princess after all." So Saiyan anxiously looked at Zevot, thinking, she's really crazy. I know she's hopeless, but that attitude just makes her worse. Clearly, that's something that will happen in the future, but I can't stop thinking about that bastard being involved in her tragic death. Thinking that Saiyan spoke, "You're right, you don't bring me any benefit, nor do you have any influence or courtesy with your current uselessness. If I get close to you, I'll only be at a disadvantage. Still, I will continue to watch you from afar until you fully develop yourself into a better person." Hearing these words from Saiyan, Zevot's face darkened, and she repeated, "Watching me." Saiyan wanted to comfort, but didn't show much emotion. He replied, "Yeah, don't be disappointed about that." I thought Zevot would be upset or angry, but she calmly regained her composure and said, "No, I understand now. I just need to improve enough for you to acknowledge me." Then Zevot pointed at Saiyan, then happily said to him, "Just wait. I don't know when, but I'll become so strong that you can't ignore me anymore." Saiyan replied on the surface, "I look forward to it." But inside he felt a bit helpless, thinking, she's cheering up quickly. After all, she's still just a kid. Zevot turned to leave, but had something else to say. "Oh, one more thing." She glanced at Saiyan sincerely and said, "Thanks for still being alive." Then she opened the door and left, leaving Saiyan puzzled. Sitting on a hospital bed at the edge of the forest camp, someone was moving very cautiously. The man carefully observed his surroundings, holding a cube in his hand that flickered with light. This person was Renan Crimson, a 7-star engineer of the Garam Kingdom. Looking at the cube in Renan Crimson's hand, excitedly said, "There's not much time left." Suddenly a voice rang out, "So it's you, Renan Crimson." This caused Crimson's face to change color, and his body was now restrained, unable to move. He tried to move, but failed silently, thinking, "My body won't move. It's like it's bound by invisible chains." But the mysterious voice continued, "A small spatial box. Its magical aura has already spread out. An artifact that can create a dimension and hold unlimited mana with infinite capacity. It's a masterpiece of the Garam Kingdom's Mage Association, right? I've been watching it for a year because I suspected someone from the Empire was smuggling it." As he spoke, the mysterious figure used his energy to control the cube in Crimson's hand. The cube was now in the hands of the mysterious figure. The mysterious figure said to Crimson, "So that's how you did it. I'll take this." Renan Crimson, the 7-star mage engineer of the Garam Kingdom, was stunned, his face both shocked and a bit scared, stammering, "Are you Saiyan Vut?" The mysterious figure was Saiyan, standing there proudly holding the trophy he had just seized. Crimson fearfully sat back and asked, "Saiyan, why are you here?" Cian didn't answer his question, instead looking at the scattered mess next to Crimson. Then Cian picked up one item from the pile and said, I think you extracted blood from the corpse of the demon beast and brought it onto the smuggling supply truck. It seems there's also a spy helping you inside the supply department. Crimson, hearing this, blew up and retorted, What the hell are you talking about? I don't know anything. Cian cut him off. No need to play dumb. Their blood has already been sold on the black market. Crimson looked at Cian and thought maybe Alice had gotten the demon dog's blood through him. So who was the real traitor? Besides being fresh, they were too big to eat anyway, and I can't let him go. I don't know how he controlled me, but I can start moving. Just as Crimson thought this, he gathered energy, used the dragon's breath, and a moment later attacked Cian, proudly shouting, Die letting your guard down means death, kid. A powerful force shot towards Cian to attack. Thinking he had defeated Cian, Crimson panted and muttered, Damn lucky I'm not dead. So the rumors about it were true. In front of Crimson were still traces of the recent attack. He regretfully said he lost the precious spatial box, never expecting this to happen during transport. Crimson was so focused on the item that he didn't notice something wrapping around his body. Suddenly, Crimson cried out in pain. His hand was attacked and chopped off. Holding his severed hand, blood continuously flowing, he looked at the black smoke drifting before him and wondered, What is this black smoke? Suddenly, Cian appeared before him. Crimson couldn't believe it, stammering, No way! Before he could finish, Cian punched him hard in the throat. Cian pinned Crimson against a tree, rendering him immobile. Cian said to him, Choose tell me the smuggling route, and the spy's name, then die peacefully or die painfully enough that even the SA would pity you. At the exchange point west of Valius, everyone was bustling with work. Two young men glanced at each other like old acquaintances, quickly meeting to look over the goods in front of them. The young man wearing a white hat said excitedly, 2 barrels. The young man wearing a red hat replied, We'll get a little more this time. An excited young man reached out to open the lid of the nearby crate and asked, How much is this crate worth? 2 crates were opened, startling them as they stared at the shipment before them. The two shouted, Lord Reyna, who did this? Amid the busy exchange point, the 2 young men looked at the crates on their vehicle, flustered and unsure what to do next. This scene was being observed from a distance by one person, Cian. The demon swordsman, Karam, asked, Aren't you going to do anything about them? Cian answered, Yeah. A warning is enough. Renan Crimson, the 7-star mage engineer of the Garum Kingdom, he has been smuggling demon beast blood from the front line behind the Yusuf Empire's back. The smuggled items were all taken from the Magic Association of the Garum Kingdom. The Magic Association of the Garum Kingdom, a place where all mages obsessed with magic gather. They study the origins and foundations of magic, as well as the art of creating new magic. They are an association aiming to surpass the current limits of humanity. They are creating artifacts like space boxes, but in the future they will make all kinds of crazy things with demon beast blood. Hearing this, Karam teased at Cian, asking, Did you just switch careers from assassin to problem solver? Cian ignored the sarcasm and said, Shut up and remind yourself to stop this. Karam continued, I thought you'd live for yourself, but this isn't even for you at all. Cian's gaze darkened. He replied, I just don't want anyone else using demon beast blood. In a residential area of the Yusuf Empire inside a building, a young man was standing looking out the window holding a piece of paper. After reading the contents, he said irritably, Celine is going to the front line with Dad. Also in the room was a woman sitting on the bed covered by a blanket. She tossed at her hair and asked Cian William, Is that your half-blood brother? The man was Archer Vertshon's older brother. He smiled slyly and said, Yeah, he's been a bit of a nuisance lately. Yes, I need to go see him for a bit. The suitcases were packed up. Emily cheerfully shouted, Finally, that terrible life at the front line is over. I'm so excited. The academy will definitely be better than that awful front line, right? While Emily was daydreaming, Cian said gloomily, Yeah, for me it's the beginning of a new hell. The academy was nothing like Emily expected. In fact, it was a place full of schemes with all kinds of political interests intertwined. It's a place where people make connections, but jealousy and envy run rampant there. And networking is more important than studying. Emily didn't know about any of that, so she happily said, I heard there are a lot of handsome teachers at the academy. Oh my God, what am I going to do? The more excited Emily is, the more disappointed Cian becomes, wondering why she's so thrilled. Emily kept dreaming aloud. Maybe I'll find a new love. Cian helplessly wondered if she really planned to go to the academy with him. The next day, Cian arrived at the academy and suddenly noticed something ahead. It was Grensvert Cian's half-brother. Grens saw Cian and fearfully stammered his name, Cian. Cian was a bit surprised, but then greeted him. Grens, what's up? Hello, but before Sion could finish, Grens quickly ran away. Kohem saw Grens panicking and asked curiously, "What's going on?" "Who's that idiot?" Sion replied. "He's Grens, my half-brother. No need to worry about him." Kohem continued, "Why are you and your family so opposed like when you met your father?" Sion denied, "No way, I get along pretty well with Sister Alice." Sion thought to himself that the one who was completely opposite him was someone else. The door opened. Sion stood there inside. The servants all bowed and said in unison, "Welcome back, young master." Sion found this unfamiliar and somewhat tense. He thought before they didn't even bother to glance at him, but now they were showing meaningless politeness. Just like when Dad or that bastard showed up. It's only been a year, but so much has changed. I guess all the effort was really worth it. Sion opened the door and stepped inside. The door closed behind him. Sion felt something was wrong. He panicked, thinking he recognized that aura. An aura that made me tremble so much. So Sion gripped the door handle tightly. Thoughts kept running through his mind. That's right behind that door is that bastard. Outside the door, Archibald appeared. He smiled and said, "Long time no see, Sion." Sion told himself to stay calm. Seeing Sion didn't respond, Archibald asked, "Don't you remember me?" It's understandable because the last time, meanwhile, Sion was still trying to calm himself down. But it was hard for him to stay calm. Sion's eyes changed. Feeling suffocated inside, he thought, how could he possibly keep calm? Now I'm going to kill Sion like a madman. His hand gripped the sword, full of murderous intent. At that moment, Karam appeared from the sword. She took Sion's hand and told him if he didn't want his head crushed, he should snap out of it. Killing him won't benefit anything, right? Hearing this, Sion's eyes gradually calmed down. He closed his eyes, then bowed deeply, saying, "The youngest son of the Vert family, Sion greets elder brother, Archer Vert." Seeing Sion act like that, he asked, "So you still remember me?" Sion kept his head bowed and replied, "So what if I'm your younger brother? I could forget your face, but not my brother's." At that moment, Archer reached out to pat Sion's head and said, "I'm glad." Sion didn't like this gesture. He clenched his teeth tightly, trying to stay calm. Archer Vert continued, "I was worried whether you'd remember me, but luckily you do." Then Archer Vert turned to Sion and said, "I heard your swordsmanship has improved a lot. One day you'll be able to assist the Vert family. Yes, I can help you and dominate the battlefield." As he spoke, he glanced at Sion. The words were full of hidden meaning. Hearing this, Sion seemed to lose control again. His eyes started to change. He replied, "Yes, I also look forward to that day, elder brother." Archer Vert looked at Sion suspiciously, but still said, "Hearing that makes me relieved. The only reason I came here was to see you." Hearing these lies, Sion thought he was the type who wouldn't even glance at someone useless to him. Now that I know his intentions, I strangely feel calm and rational. Thinking this, Sion forced a friendly smile and replied, "I want to see you too, elder brother." Meanwhile, outside, Emily was carrying luggage with both hands, annoyed, saying, "Honestly, he doesn't have that much luggage. Is it really that hard to help me carry it?" After a while, Emily was exhausted. She put down her 2 suitcases, panting and complaining, "I'm so tired." Then Emily opened the door and shouted, "Young master, how could you leave alone like that?" After speaking, she looked at the person in front of her, Archibald, and was stunned, saying, "Young master." Archibald smiled warmly and said to Emily, "I heard you're very close with Sean, and it seems your relationship is really good. Just keep doing your work." Then Archibald walked away. Archibald left. Emily regained her composure and sighed, "I thought I was going to die from stress." Then she turned to scold Sean, "Young master, if you were coming, you should have told me first." But Sion ignored those words. He said, "Emily, can you step outside for a moment?" Emily was a bit confused and asked, "What did you say?" But before she could finish, Sion cut her off. His eyes had now turned red. He spoke in a low voice, "Don't make me say this a second time." Emily looked at Sion worriedly. Sion bent over the toilet and vomited. After vomiting, Sion tried to stand up and asked Kohem why he stopped him. Kohem asked back, Sion, "Shouldn't you be thanking me first?" Sion continued, "That was also your chance. And the very moment I fell was the perfect opportunity for you to take over my body." Kohem laughed and replied, "Don't get it wrong. I simply wanted your rage to grow even stronger." Sion smirked and said, "Well then, all the better. That sounds more like you." Someone was moving down the hallway. Standing before the large door, he knocked. Inside, Akcho spoke up, "Come in." As he entered, he bowed and reported, "I followed your orders and have located the 2 ladies of Akcho." Sitting on a chair reading a book, upon hearing the information, he asked, "Where's the girl?" The close aide responded, "It has been confirmed that the lady is in the northern part of the continent, the land of the white spirit Brina." Akcho propped his chin on his hand and said, "Brina, huh? I didn't expect the girl to live among a race that despises outsiders. That shows just how much allure she has. If there are any signs, she will return to the Empire. Report to me immediately. The close aide acknowledged. Before leaving, he asked Akcho, may I ask, has something happened that has put you in such a good mood? Actrum asked back, why do you think that? The close aide replied, because you look much happier than usual. Was your meeting with her that enjoyable? Actrum laughed loudly. Enjoyable, huh? That's one way to put it, but you're wrong. I'm actually in a very bad mood right now. At that moment, Actrum's pupils turned blue. Seeing that the close aide immediately realized the situation, he bowed down fearfully and said, forgive me for not recognizing your mood earlier. Afro recalled the moment he met Sean, thinking his eyes. It was like he was facing an enemy. Did I misunderstand? Akcho spoke indeed. There's a lot to worry about concerning that boy. I'll have to watch him closely to make sure he doesn't go astray. The close aide felt reassured and replied, yes, I will have someone monitor the young master. I'll take my leave now. The close aide left Akcho's place. Sitting there looking out the window, he kept recalling the image from when he met Sean. He began to make calculations and ponder. Sean Vert, after all, is my beloved younger brother. What is he hiding? In the Duke's estate courtyard, a group of people stood waiting, preparing to leave somewhere. Emily called out loudly, hey, young master, how can you do that and expect it to be okay? Saiyan, sitting in the carriage, replied, I'm helpless too. There's nothing I can do. Do you think I want this? But the academy doesn't allow extra servants to come along. I have no choice. Ignoring Saiyan, Emily angrily said, since you knew, why didn't you tell me, young master? Waiting until the last minute to say it. How can I accept that? Saiyan helplessly said, all right, fine, just go. Stay at the family estate and don't cause any trouble, okay? We'll settle things later. Hearing this, Emily softened and replied, okay, young master, don't worry. The one I'm worried about is you. Don't cause trouble at the academy. Sean laughed and replied, of course I'm not a child. He shouted to the driver, all right, let's go, everyone. The convoy started moving. Emily tried to add, young master, remember, don't forget. Truly careless just now. She said that and then left immediately. Once Saiyan had gone quite far, Emily, sadly with tears in her eyes, called out, remember to be careful with everything at the academy, young master. Don't cause trouble or let anyone bully you. If there is anything, tell me. You must study well and then come back to the family. Hearing this, Saiyan thought with relief, lucky she agreed to stay at the family estate. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Saiyan recalled when he was 8 years old. It was a rainy day and I had a severe fever, barely aware of my surroundings. No one in my family cared about me. Despite the heavy rain and storm, luckily there was Emily. She carried me on her back all night, running around the city, knocking on the doors of doctors one by one. The scene cut back to that rainy night. Emily carried Saiyan on her back, continuously calling out, is anyone home? Please open the door and save my young master. Fortunately, a kind old man opened the door for them and said, all right, come in quickly, bring the boy inside. Saiyan recalled that if it weren't for her during that difficult time, he might have died alone and unnoticed in the room. Thinking of this, Saiyan peeked through the window, smiled and said to Emily, all right, don't worry, I promise. I will find a way to get you to the academy. Don't worry too much about your family. I'll write to you if anything happens. Then Saiyan continued thinking about those feelings. That's why I don't see Emily as a servant, but as part of the family. Emily happily waved goodbye and said, all right, young master, rest assured, I will behave well here, waiting for your good news. Yes, sir. Sean finally felt at ease, but suspiciously wondered, one thing is done now, but it's quite strange why the family sent 6 knights to escort me to the academy. Even though I'm a duke's son, I don't have any real status in the family to deserve such an escort. This trip to the academy is going to be quite complicated. There are many things I just can't predict. Still, it's something to look forward to. The carriage carrying Sean to the academy was still moving. The soldiers looked at each other and nodded. Sean lay back inside the carriage. One soldier came to the window and said to Sean, it looks like we'll camp here tonight, young master. Sean replied, all right, if everyone's tired, let's rest here. How far have we traveled from the family estate? The soldier looked at the map and replied, currently, we've covered a long distance, young master. To be exact, we're nearly at the center of the Saffron territory. We estimate that by tomorrow afternoon, we'll reach the city in that territory. Saiyan heard this and said, all right, keep it that way. Everyone rest and regain your strength. Report to me if anything happens. The soldiers acknowledged the order. Saiyan returned to his seat. His eyes darkened as he thought and said a lie. As far as I know, there is no forest near the Saffron territory. They think I'm young and have never been here before. Yet they thought they could fool me. It seems they've diverted us slightly outside the border. That's why there's such a dense forest here. I don't understand why they brought me to this dark forest and camped here. What's their purpose? While pondering, a soldier came to inform young master the camp is set up. The fire is lit. Young master, you may get out of the carriage now. Sean stepped down from the carriage. Walking, he casually asked, the forest here is truly quiet and the air is fresh, isn't it? But I don't understand why you surround my carriage like this. I don't know who sent you to escort me like this. Sean was now surrounded by the group. The soldiers looked at each other. One of them grinned slyly. Saiyan observed this attitude. He thought to himself, why are they smiling so wickedly? Saiyan's expression changed. His eyes shifted color. He repeated, I ask you who is behind the orders for you to do this. One soldier smiled dangerously and replied, young master, you are perceptive. But a man about to die like you doesn't need to know this. As he spoke, his hand grabbed the sword hilt at his side. Another soldier continued, whatever you ask won't matter. Our job is to follow orders from above. Whether we want to or not, we cannot decide on our own. With the honor of a knight, we promise not to let you die painfully, but to escort you quickly to the other side. If you have questions, ask them in the afterlife. All you need to do now is stand still and don't think too much. Everything around will be over soon. The soldiers, teasing and joking, moved closer to the carriage. One among the soldiers was right in front of Saiyan. He raised his sword to strike down hard and said, all right, we've talked enough. Farewell, young master. The soldier's sword swung down, but Saiyan tilted his head slightly and dodged it. 1 second later, something flew up into the air, accompanied by blood on the ground. The head of the soldier from earlier lay there dead, eyes wide open. Saiyan, holding the sword, said to the remaining soldiers, you guys are in trouble now. Now there's already one dead. You should be scared and answer my questions. The soldiers who witnessed the scene were all terrified. Their confidence from earlier was completely gone. Saiyan repeated, none of you say anything, probably too scared to speak. The whole Saiyan's body burned with anger and a bit of madness as he added, if you stay silent like this, there will be only one outcome, death. Brian Kendrick watched what was happening, stunned and thinking, I can't believe a kid can act so decisively and powerfully. The other soldiers still tried to attack Saiyan, but all failed. Everyone lost parts of their bodies, some just limbs, others their heads. Screams echoed all around. Brian Kendrick grew more and more confused, thinking, there's no way this kid is only 11 years old, but so strong and cold-blooded. No wonder he survived on the battlefield after that dragon took him to the demon tribe's territory. This mission is probably doomed. We were too careless not to expect he'd be this terrifying. From the start, nothing went as smoothly as I thought. Lost in thought, Brian Kendrick suddenly sat heavily on the ground, his face showing fear. Saiyan stood in front of him and said, what about you? Will you speak, or will you keep radiating that murderous aura? Brian Kendrick, scared and with tears streaming down, said, young master, this was the Duchess Margaret's doing. She ordered us to bring you into the forest and quietly assassinate you. Saiyan whispered to himself, this guy's really a coward, but it's understandable, his comrades are all dead. If he doesn't confess, he'll be next. Brian Kendrick sobbed uncontrollably. After settling the carriage issue, they continued on. Brian Kendrick, now the driver, spoke as they went from what I know in the clan rumors have been spreading lately. I don't know if you've heard, young Master Grayson. First, after being terrified of you, asked Duchess Margaret to do something. I guess the Duchess's action was on young Master Grayson's request to prevent any future threat to him. Saiyan recalled when he met Grants and said, okay, so it was because of this guy. No wonder during that trial he kept running away like he was dodging arrows. Next time I return to the clan and see him, I will punish him properly. Brian Kendrick hesitated and said, young master, what do you intend to do with me? Please spare my life. I have told you everything. I only acted under orders from above. Saiyan asked him, you look completely broken in spirit, but at least you still want to live. Brian Kendrick replied sadly, anyway, it's hard for me to return to the clan since I failed the mission. Whatever you do, kill or spare me, I'll have to accept it. What I did was under orders, but still it's my fault for the assassination attempt. Even though I followed orders, it's still my fault. Saiyan, tired of hearing complaints, said, all right, we'll deal with that later. Right now I need a servant. Keep driving. Whether you live or die, you can explain later. I already know what you did. Later, depending on your attitude, I'll decide. Outwardly, he said that, but inside, Saiyan laughed, thinking, looking at you, such a coward, I don't understand how you became a charioteer. But you're pretty good at driving the carriage. Brian Kendrick was surprised by these words and thanked Saiyan for sparing his life. Saiyan looked ahead and said, looks like we've arrived the central city of Saffron. At the first family mansion, Margaret was raging furiously, smashing a vase and shouting in anger. What the hell, it failed. Her body trembled with fury as she clenched both hands and asked, all the knights are dead. How is that possible? One person is still missing, and that kid has disappeared too. The servant only dared to bow his head and fearfully replied, yes, that's correct. Young Master Saiyan arrived at the central city of Saffron last week. Margaret raised her hand to cover her mouth in panic and asked again the fact that 7 bodyguards failed to assassinate a mere kid. How can that be believable? This really is beyond what I could have imagined. The servant bowed his head and replied apologetically, it seems we underestimated young Master Saiyan. Although he's young, his strength is truly overwhelming. Margaret roared in rage. It's because you told me to do it. That kid is just a child. How could he be that strong? We even sent 7 knights with him. Facing Margaret's fury, the attendant was sweating nervously and quickly replied in fear, this is also my fault, but I suspect that some force must be helping the young master. He hurriedly pleaded, begging Madam to give him one more chance. This time he promised not to be so careless. The academy operation will surely succeed. Margaret was furious to the point of madness, angrily hissing, since it's come to this, then stop. If you keep trying and fail again, things will spiral out of control. He might be driven to desperate measures that I and young Master Grangeford cannot anticipate. At this, Margaret unconsciously recalled Sealander's cold threat from that day. Madam, if you want to mess with me, be careful about yourself and your child. What I do is beyond what Madam can imagine. This threat always haunts Margaret's mind. Just thinking about it sends chills down her spine. She felt afraid, quickly turned away, sweat soaking her body, and lowered her voice to order. Let's end this here. Don't overdo it anymore, or it will cause trouble. The servant bowed his head obediently and complied. Yes, I understand. Margaret added a warning, just frowning and glancing at the servant, her tone turning threatening. This information must not be shared with anyone, understand? This is serious, so handle anyone involved quietly. The servant bowed and replied, yes, madam. Margaret's attendant stepped outside, unaware that in a distant hidden corner, Archer's assistant was silently observing him. He remained loyal to his role as the valet driver, riding quietly in the carriage. Saiyan thought to himself that the Duchess Madam must have guessed some of the story after seeing the bodies of those knights in the forest. Of course, I can't yet predict her next moves, but for now, I just need to head to the academy. I'll figure out what to do when I get there, but after this failed assassination attempt, she'll probably reconsider any actions against me. Brian suddenly pushed open the carriage window and poked his head in to announce, young master, we've arrived at the next city. Saiyan lazily opened one eye and glanced at him, mumbling, all right. He thought to himself that this bustling city of Jufu reminded him of many things from before. The academy building was already visible in the distance. A flock of birds flew in formation, weaving through the clear blue sky. Saiyan's carriage crossed the bridge, heading straight toward the academy gate. Saiyan was lost in thought, recalling how, in his previous life, this place caused him much suffering. But many events at this academy changed his life in a more positive direction. Saiyan entered the academy and went straight to the enrollment counter, presenting the first family badge. He told the manager, I am Saiyan, a member of the first family here is scheduled. The atmosphere seemed to pause slightly when everyone heard the name Sealand. Everyone stopped, but what they were doing and stared at him. The manager forced a smile, stood up, and quickly said, yes, young master. Everything has been arranged properly. Please follow me. Now what you need to do is register at the dormitory. You can rest there for a few days. Soon there will be an opening ceremony and an entrance exam for all the registered students at this academy. Saiyan was a bit surprised by the manager's enthusiasm, but didn't say anything. He put the badge back in his pocket and thought, that's settled then. Just need to wait a little longer and it'll be done. The manager pushed a silver tray towards Saiyan. On it was a letter sealed with red wax and a golden key. Saiyan looked down in amazement. Are these really the things I received from this academy? Brian carried Saiyan's luggage back to the assigned dormitory room. The bags in his hands dropped with a thud when he saw this room with his own eyes. He froze mouth agape and exclaimed, oh my God, young master. This room looks so luxurious. Indeed, the room for Saiyan is several times larger than the one you have in the first family mansion. Fully equipped, everything sparkles with golden light, no less opulent. Saiyan has never stayed in a room like this before. In his previous life, he was also surprised and thought to himself, is this room meant for royalty or what? What kind of dorm is this? Before, no student enrolling in the academy had ever been allowed to temporarily stay in a royal room like this. Not even my damn older brother. Someone must be behind this. Even so, Cyan still didn't show any special reaction. He turned to Brian and asked, "You've brought all my belongings up here, right?" Brian was still stunned by the grandeur he was witnessing for the first time. Sweating and dazed, he replied, "Yes, everything has been brought up, young master, rest assured." Cyan suddenly dropped his tone coldly. He slowly put his hand into his inner pocket while turning to Brian and said, "All right, now I'm ready to enroll. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the entrance exam." He glanced at Brian, his eyes showing a hint of emotion, but his tone remained even and cold as he continued. "So thank you very much, Brian. But your journey ends here." Faced with Cyan's sudden cold change in attitude, Brian was terrified, trembling and sweating, stammering and begging, "Young master, please don't kill me." But Cyan suddenly took out a pouch of gold coins and threw it to him. Brian was stunned, staring at the pouch confused. "Huh, what's this?" Cyan lazily turned his back and replied, "That's your pay. Take that money and run away. Don't ever come back to the family territory. With that money, you can live a different life in peace. Listen to me and don't come near the family lands again. If the madam finds you alive, you're as good as dead." You understand what I mean, right? Brian was speechless, watching the young masters retreating back. Suddenly, he knelt down hurriedly, shouting, "Servant Brian Kendrick, a knight who has been knighted." Cyan was surprised and turned to look at Brian, who was kneeling before him. His face full of determination, he firmly shouted, "Thanks to the young master's mercy for sparing my life until today. I hope the young master will have compassion to the very end. Please allow your servant to serve you. No matter how hard the task may be later, please command me. Even if I die, I will not deny my loyalty." Cyan glared at him mercilessly and said sarcastically, "Sounds good, huh? You a knight, your strength is still too weak." In Cyan's eyes, he only saw Brian as a hired porter. Brian awkwardly responded, "Yes, I'm a knight, but I lack experience and my skills are poor. So I still do the lowly tasks compared to other knights." He lowered his head hesitantly, but deep down he always remembered his father's words. "If later I meet a master who truly treats me well, and I can trust that person, then I will wholeheartedly follow them. Even if I die, I won't regret it. This loyalty of mine is now directed to you, young master. Please allow me to serve you." Cyan pondered, then sighed. He coldly reminded, "Do you really think I'm sincere like that? Seems like you still don't have enough experience, Brian. Your actions need to be carefully considered." Then Brian looked up at him, surprised, and nervously asked, "What do you mean?" Cyan stepped in front of him. His cold, emotionless eyes stared at Brian, full of killing intent. "If I lead you into death later, will you resent me?" Facing his cold attitude, Brian, though a bit scared, firmly affirmed, "Yes, sir, I have been loyal to the young master. No matter what happens later, I will not regret it." Cyan was silent. He patted Brian's shoulder and replied, "All right, then, I got it." He turned and left the room, leaving a reminder, "Stay there and listen for any news outside the main hall. If there's any issue at the academy, report it to me. I'm not really interested in the academy's opening ceremony. Maybe I'll only show up when the entrance exam starts." Brian looked after him and immediately obeyed, "Yes, sir, understood." Brian watched the door close, confused, not understanding what kind of person Cyan really was. A few days later, in the principal's office at the academy, the principal was having a discussion with a lecturer. After the entrance aptitude test ended, he clasped his hands in front of his chest and pondered, truly a high-quality entrance exam. "I never expected so many talented students from across the empire to participate in the academy this time. Hopefully the empire's future will be bright thanks to this new generation." During the entrance exam a few days ago, the new students gathered around the survey podium. The first student stood on the podium, bathed in a golden light, Aaron Severus. 2-circle magic power level. B, saintly constitution, 52% radiant phoenix student. Next was Seth Sahakan, 3-circle magic power level. A saintly constitution, 53% earth energy. The principal was deeply impressed as he read the results in his hands. Stroking his beard thoughtfully at a glance, these two students really do have exceptional talent. But there was another quite special student. Sayanvert, this kid too. Sealan Vert, 1-circle magic power level. S, saintly constitution, 92% dark magic. Sika Kenichi, a lecturer at the academy, pushed up her glasses and exclaimed with some surprise, "I really didn't expect him to have such a uniquely exceptional constitution." The top graduate of our academy before was Alice Vert, who was renowned as a prodigy with extraordinary talent and intelligence from a young age. When she graduated, her saintly constitution was only at 88%. Kunel Kusuo, the academy principal, frowned slightly and replied, "Indeed, this family always produces outstanding talents. We thought no one would match Alice, but this time a new talent appeared, her younger brother. Truly a talent worthy of attention and training. Lecturer Siri hesitated a bit and said, however, one thing to note about this kid is that his constitution belongs to the dark element. Principal Kunal nodded. That's right. With this constitution, his power and agility are unquestionable. But if he can't control his dark power, he might very well fall into evil ways in the future. The principal placed the information sheets on the table, slowly stood up, turned his back to Sirika and pondered, do you know why such a young kid was sent to our Royal Academy? Sirika frankly answered, well, there are many rumors, but as far as I know. The principal calmly replied he was assigned here by the Emperor himself. Hearing this, Sirika was shocked and surprised. Kunal glanced at her and continued. After the border battle against the demon tribe, the Emperor witnessed his power firsthand. Moreover, he saved the princess from the monsters. Because of that, the Emperor sees him as a destined match for the little princess and cares deeply about this kid. He thought about the future of Princess Erin and Son and nodded thoughtfully. From this, we can foresee the future. If the 5 princesses who were thought incapable of inheriting the throne and lacked talent are promised in marriage to a rare talent from the first Duke's family, this will bring unpredictable changes for both the princess and our empire. Sirika suddenly woke up, covering her mouth in astonishment, and speculated, yes, it's very simple to understand. From a powerless princess always seen as weak in the struggle for power to someone with emerging strength, the throne war will be even fiercer. This might cause endless chaos in our empire, with soldiers and citizens shedding blood nonstop. Finally, Kunal glanced at Sirika and lowered his voice to remind, now that it has come to this, we just have to accept it. This is the Emperor's decision. We cannot interfere. We cannot predict the future. All we can do is observe the situation and let time prove whether this boy can unite with the princess to create a new power, or if he will perish in this brutal throne war. Jane returned after the entrance exam, walking alone down the empty corridor, head bowed in thought. 92% right. I didn't expect it to increase so much. In my previous life, after the entrance exam, my saintly constitution was only about 80%. Seems things are quite different now. He silently thought this increase in constitution must be because I drank too much monster blood, so my physique improved, raised significantly. At that moment, he was surprised to bump into someone in the corridor. It was Friends with his companion. Friends saw Sayin as if he saw a ghost, stepping back in horror and shouting, what the hell? Sayin thought to himself, this bastard must have thought I was dead in the forest, that's why he's so shocked. While Gran was sweating nervously, his friend remained calm. The friend, huge like an elephant compared to the skinny Gran, stood behind him like a solid wall and asked in a commanding tone, is this the kid? In your family, you treated him like a servant and taught him many lessons during swordsmanship duels, right? Little Grens nervously replied, right. So that kid is my younger brother. He's a weak kid named Sayin. Sayin looked at Grens' friend and thought to himself, this fat guy is Bob Fennel, the son of Marquise Fennel from the Duchy of Graham. Bob sneered arrogantly before him, looking at Sayin with pride, and asked mockingly, hey kid, you seem new to the academy, so there must be a lot you don't know, right? I heard you don't even know who your own mother is, right? Sayin didn't react. He recalled being bullied by Grens and Pop in his past life. He thought angrily, that bastard was truly my nightmare in my past life. He and that damn older brother never stopped tormenting me throughout my time at this academy, but this life will be different. Sayin smirked excitedly, his eyes glowing with a fierce red light, thinking happily, it's great to meet both those bastards here at the same time. Bob saw Sayin just smiling at him as if ready to devour him alive and felt uneasy. Bob, full of pride, slapped Renz on the shoulder arrogantly and said, looks like this kid is new here. I need to teach him a lesson so he'll behave better. Renz didn't feel reassured at all. He panicked and warned, hey Bob, wait, he's weak, but you need to be careful. Bob thought Grants was just fussing uselessly. He stepped forward confidently and replied, all right, leave it to me. Don't worry. Since we're already here, we might as well get to know each other a bit. Grants was still sweating profusely like a waterfall, weakly protesting, I think we should leave. Now we can talk to him later. It's almost mealtime. Despite Grant's objections, Bob still charged forward, but before he could make a move, Sayin kicked him, sending him flying into the wall, shattering a large section of stone. Grants trembled at the scene, tears falling as he screamed in horror. No, Bob. Bob foolishly challenged Sayin to show off in front of Grants, but after just one kick from Sayin, he was knocked flat on the ground. Grants cried out in panic, Bob! After quickly finishing off Bob, Saiyan looked straight at Grants and calmly asked, "Shall we have a little chat, Bob?" Now alone with him, Grants cried fearfully, stammering and trembling. Okay, what is it?" Saiyan didn't answer immediately. He coldly approached Grants and slowly placed a hand on his shoulder. Just that touch made Grants shiver uncontrollably, sweat mixing with tears. He lowered his gaze to look at Grants and smiled, then whispered in Grants' ear, "I don't care what scheme you're plotting, but I'm merciful. You've seen that already. But if you dare lay a hand on me again..." Saiyan curled his lips into a threatening whisper that sent chills down Grant's spine. "You won't graduate with all your bones intact." Grants felt a cold shiver down his back. His limbs went weak, his face turned pale, and he sobbed uncontrollably. Terrified, Grants collapsed beside his unconscious friend. Saiyan turned his back and walked away, smiling excitedly to himself. Looks like life at the Academy is going to be pretty interesting from now on. Academy Library 01, sunlight slanting through the glass window panes. Lecturer Sharika was calmly walking in the restricted area, lost in thought. She pushed up her glasses and silently thought about Saiyan. Whether he becomes a disaster or a hero in the future, I should keep an eye on this student named Saiyan. Sharika stepped to the bookshelf and reached for a book among the stacks, but realized the book she was looking for wasn't there. Sharika suddenly squinted in confusion, thinking that it's not here. Behind her, Saiyan was leaning against the bookshelf, holding the book in his hand, and smiled as he suddenly said, "Are you looking for this?" Sharika was startled and quickly turned to look at Saiyan awkwardly, forcing a smile and asking, "How did you get in here?" "This is a restricted area." Sharika thought to herself, confused. I couldn't sense his presence at all. She stepped closer to Saiyan, shyly smiling as she asked, "Your name is Saiyan, right? Could you please give me that book? I need that material for research." Saiyan was holding the exact book she was looking for and smiled innocently as he asked, You mean this book? Of course I'll give it to you." Sharika reached out to take it, politely smiling, and said, "Thank you." Suddenly, a sharp black aura shot straight at Saiyan, startling him to freeze. The book in his hand was torn in half. He stood amid the torn papers fluttering in the wind, warily watching the purple energy dissipate before him, then smiled and asked with a hint of embarrassment, "Aren't you the one looking for it, Instructor Sharika?" No," he bluntly asked the head of the Assassin Guild, Miss Sharika Negriti. Sharika clenched a piece of black paper in her hand, her arms still covered by a mysterious black mist. She glared at Saiyan and coldly asked, "Who are you, kid?" "How did you find this?" Saiyan recalled that in his previous life, his first impression of Instructor Sharika was pretty ordinary. She had once arranged a talk with Saiyan and politely asked small talk questions like, "How's life at the Academy?" That day, Saiyan was much worse off. He didn't answer and just bowed his head silently. At that time, Sharika was still cheerfully encouraging him. "I know you want to end this boring talk quickly, but face-to-face interaction is very important for a student's development." Back then, he thought it was ironic to expect growth from himself when all he got was bullying from that damn older brother. He tiredly replied, "I don't care about him." Everything at the Academy felt like a joke. Despite his cold response, Sharika still smiled and said, "Actually, I'm quite interested in you, Saiyan." That statement surprised him. Sharika continued, "An abnormal dark element ratio at 84% is quite rare." Saiyan lowered his head and replied, "But they say it's an element with no special traits." Then Sharika took this chance to plant a thought in Saiyan's mind. Because there are many aspects of the dark element humanity still doesn't fully understand. On the contrary, I think your potential for development is limitless. Sharika's words changed Saiyan. Back then, he naively thought he had been enlightened with a tangle of emotions. Sharika kept up her friendly facade. She smiled encouragingly and said, "You will succeed in the future." At that time, Saiyan secretly wondered if she truly understood the dark element properties well enough to guide him. Now knowing Sharika's true face, Saiyan looked at her warily, smiling helplessly, and thought, I was so mistaken. But I was deceived. Saiyan bitterly recalled the betrayal from his past life, staring straight into Sharika's silent, terrifying expression. At that moment, she stood among the tattered book pages. Her arm was enveloped in black mist. Saiyan cautiously thought, never be fooled by that friendly, smiling face behind those glasses. The instructor of the Royal Academy is just a cover. Her true identity is an assassin. Watching Sharika slowly remove her glasses, Saiyan silently thought she was one of the Mist Assassin Guild leaders infiltrating the academy, where many noble children of the continent gathered. The organization she worked for, the Mist Assassin Guild, had long hidden their identity behind a demon mask. She held her glasses calmly and casually praised, surprising Cyan, "Well done." She turned away, glanced back at Cyan with an expressionless face and said, "You'll hear more details about this in the laboratory. Before that cleanup, this messy pile of books." Following her words, Cyan was stunned and still hadn't fully processed the situation. He nervously thought, how can she stay so calm after what I just said? The laboratory at the academy looked exactly as Cyan remembered, with test tubes scattered on the chemistry table and quartz spheres. He looked around nostalgically and thought, this place hasn't changed. He leisurely took a sip of tea, then looked up and asked Sharika with a goofy smile, "Did you poison the tea?" The tea in Cyan's hand emitted a thin purple smoke. He thought, no wonder she's so indifferent. Sharika also laughed heartily and replied, "You won't die, so don't worry. That should only be enough to melt some of your organs." But Cyan wasn't surprised since his opponent was an assassin. He bowed his head and chuckled silently, recalling what he had swallowed before. He silently vowed, "But that won't work because I've already tested drinking countless demon bloods and poisons Emily created." Then he glanced at Sharika, smirking challengingly. "Hope next time you'll increase the dose." Sharika was shocked by this situation. She looked at him bitterly and replied resentfully, "So can we start talking now?" She asked directly, "How do you know her identity?" Moreover, she paused for a moment, then mentioned the book from earlier. "You even know the exact location of the directive from the Mist organization placed among the little-known books in the library." She smirked, stroked her chin, and asked slyly, "Or do you want to say up front that you are also part of the Mist Society?" Cyan rolled his eyes in boredom and asked back, "Do I still need to prove anything else?" Sharika suddenly narrowed her eyes at Cyan. Her gaze was full of killing intent and excitement. She curled her lips into a mocking smile and said sarcastically, "You're boasting about having a high dark elemental value, huh, kid?" Cyan didn't answer. He turned his face to the window, smiled, and said, "That's none of your business." On the way to S.A. Tran, everyone kept asking me if it was really okay that I only brought one knight with me, even though he was just the driver the entire way. Sharika still didn't understand what this had to do with anything. So Cyan continued, "I heard recently that noble descendants enrolling have been dropping dead one after another on the road." Cyan glanced at Sharika. He smirked meaningfully. "Since when did the cleansing process start?" Sharika looked surprised. She muttered in disbelief, "The cleansing process?" Cyan deliberately mentioned the characteristic assassination of nobles by the Mist organization. She smiled, deciding that Cyan was a threat. Her eyes instantly became cold and filled with killing intent. She gave a cold smile and answered coldly, "You don't understand what you're talking about." A black mist erupted around her, enveloping Cyan. A distinctive red mist swirled around him like a vortex. He loosened his tie, asked coolly, "Usually isn't that the business of the Mist Assassination Organization?" Sharika looked at Cyan with a terrifying gaze. She gritted her teeth, curled her lips into a hissed smile. "You'll regret the things you just spat out." Cyan was no pushover either. He met Sharika's gaze, smirked, and asked, "Are you threatening a student?" Swift as a flash, Sharika kicked over the table. She threw the large wooden table straight at Cyan, looking at him with a terrifying smile. Cyan clenched his fist coldly and asked back, "So you're playing this way?" He punched the large wooden table, breaking it in half. Sharika took advantage of this moment and lunged from behind him, two sharp daggers in hand. He glanced at her disappointedly and said, "I thought I had already proven my identity." Then Sharika smirked, dove in like a hawk stalking prey, and sneered, "Even if you really are part of the Mist, you're one of the leaders of the organization. I know most of the faces of all the other Mist members." She charged at him and struck twice, but Cyan dodged them all. She pressed the advantage, laughing heartily. "You won't get away, Gi." Cyan was tired of this cat-and-mouse game. He sighed and muttered, "No other way." He reached out to summon the Karam demon sword. Without hesitation, he grasped the sword and struck sharply at Sharika to block her attack. He gripped the sword, firmly charged forward, and muttered with a frown, "If you don't believe me, then I'll have to prove it." Cyan's attacks were so fast that Sharika couldn't see or react in time, even though he deliberately avoided hitting non-vital spots. Sharika looked startled. She shouted, "Wait!" Cyan struck Sharika, forcing her to jump back. She seemed stunned. When she saw the weapon Cyan used, her eyes wide as she broke out in sweat and exclaimed, "You? That sword, could it be?" She mentioned Sion's Karam Demon Sword shocked, a weapon only usable by someone chosen by AR. The Karam Demon Sword. Saiyan held the sword high in front of her intentionally so Sharika could see, and asked, "So you finally admit it?" He asked calmly. "Right now the organization is also searching for the heir to their power, isn't it?" Sharika gasped in horror. "How did you?" Sion rested his sword on his shoulder, looked at Sharika, and decisively answered, "Look, the heir they're looking for is right here. I'll take you to AR." That night on a quiet street somewhere in Lewin, there was only a shadow in the dim streetlights. The whole street's lights were off, doors closed, deeply asleep in peaceful silence. Sharika led Cyan to a wooden house, and its door closed silently with the gate tightly locked with iron chains. She opened the gate with magic and the door suddenly swung open. Cyan saw the way in and showed no special reaction. Sharika coldly asked back, "Aren't you surprised that the base of the Mist Assassin organization is in a place like this?" Cyan didn't answer. Sharika then looked inside the deep doorway. Cold wind blew out from within. She continued coldly, "This is the entrance to the hall you want to reach." Cyan didn't hesitate to step inside. He was too familiar with this house, so he just marched straight ahead. He thought to himself this place was an independent space created by the power of the war god. Looking toward the dark end of the path, he silently thought it was much larger than it appeared from outside. As he walked, he thought of the 2 swords at 4 o'clock and 3 throwing blades at 11 o'clock attacking simultaneously. In an instant, he drew his sword and swung to block all the throwing blades rushing at him. Immediately afterward, from above, 3 assassins of the Mist organization lunged from the shadows towards Cyan. He glanced at them with an expressionless face, feeling slightly uneasy inside. He thought he knew it wouldn't be normal, but didn't expect it to be this intense. It was a bit too much. He spun and jumped backwards, successfully dodging the assassin's initial strike. They didn't waste a second and immediately charged with a relentless attack. Cyan skillfully dodged every blow, leaving the sound of blades clashing and sparks of metal flying. In a moment, his blade aimed straight at an assassin's face, startling him, but he quickly dodged and countered Cyan's attack. Cyan glanced at the throwing blades he had launched, which were blocked and deflected backward. He thought, did he really block my strike in such a short moment? Impressive. He looked up at that assassin who was now furious. His eyes beneath the mask were filled with murderous intent directed at Cyan. He gripped his sword tightly, deciding to use a secret technique. Attacking simultaneously, 4 assassins rushed at Cyan from 4 directions, using the death signal secret technique together. Cyan calmly raised his hand to counter with another secret technique attack. His body burst into a red bone aura. The terrified assassins shouted among themselves that there was no way a kid like him could use that secret technique. That was the blood tide. Cyan calmly extended his hand. The red bone aura from him transformed into a sharp weapon that exploded through the charging assassins. His secret technique, Blood Tide, was a high-level secret skill of the top assassins in the organization. It allowed the user to convert bloodlust into physical attacks. The red bone aura still wrapped around the assassins, squeezing them tight. They clutched their necks, bodies stiffening, struggling, and gasping in terror. "I can't breathe." In an instant, Cyan defeated 3 assassins, knocking them unconscious within his red mist. He glanced at them with an emotionless face, thinking they would be out for quite a while. Suddenly, he looked ahead, thinking there was still more. He was quite surprised to see one enemy still standing against him, seemingly not heavily injured. He wondered if the one not yet defeated was a top-tier assassin. Still, Cyan remained unshaken. He parted his lips and whispered the demon sword had appeared in his hand. It enveloped him in a red mist. His eyes gleamed with deadly intent. He was about to use the next secret technique, the immovable roots of the great tree. Suddenly, the last assassin charged at him. To Cyan's surprise, the assassin charged straight at him, interrupting the technique he was preparing to cast. He was stunned and a bit confused, thinking could he really cause an interruption to his technique? Who was he? The last assassin threw off his mask. He exclaimed to Cyan, "Looks like you're skilled with assassin techniques now, huh?" It turns out the last assassin closing in on him is Sirika. She smiled and pressed her sword's blade straight against Cyan's demon sword, challenging him. "Then I won't hold back anymore." Cyan threw down his sword. Cyan held the astonished man, realizing the last opponent dueling him one-on-one. He opened his eyes wide and blurted out, "The Electric Lord Sharika." She looked quite strange. The excitement mixed with killing intent made her wildly stimulated. She gasped and laughed loudly. "Show me your true power." Immediately, Cyan used the bone-thickening technique, Level 8 continuous slash to launch a surprise attack, pushing Shirika back with a flurry of consecutive slashes. His attack could only cut through the elastic band holding her hair. Shirika arched her body defensively, smiling with pleasure as she said, "You've mastered both bone thickening and sword technique. Now haven't you? You're getting more and more interesting." She excitedly shouted, "Show me how great your potential is, Cyan." But before she could finish, Cyan turned and ran straight into a deep room inside. He was running not out of fear, but because he realized something. That fighting spirit was what affected Shirika, making an electric lord immersed in the desire to fight. While running headlong, Cyan panicked, thinking that Shirika, chasing closely behind, would want to fight to the death. Anyone who's fought her would understand, so he needed to escape immediately. Shirika, aggressive and chasing him closely, had a crazy smile on her lips. Her eyes held nothing but murderous madness. Her face flushed red from excitement as she laughed wildly, calling out, "Come back here, Cyan. You refuse my drink. Want a drinking penalty then." After that, she immediately used the sword technique Storm Mist Rush, charging at Cyan like a wild tornado. Very quickly, Cyan spun around to block her downward blade. He jumped back annoyed, thinking, "I don't have a twisted desire to fight like her." Then Shirika realized Cyan wasn't fighting with his full strength. She couldn't accept this, looked him straight in the eyes and said, "This dimension was created by Eru, so outside won't detect your aura. No need to worry." He looked at her, frowning, thinking, "Right, I can unleash full power here." He thought to himself that he was strong enough to kill her, but Cyan hesitated a little because that wasn't why he wanted her to bring him here. Still, he raised the demon sword, forcing himself to use its demonic power. Red bone shards swirled faintly around him. Suddenly, Cyan felt dizzy. He collapsed. A sinister voice echoed in the space, "I know." Along with that, the demon sword cone in his hand gradually vanished its true form, appearing in thick black mist, saying to Cyan, "You can rest now." Shirika was quite surprised by this scene and immediately asked, "Who are you?" The demon sword. Koam crossed its arms, looking at Shirika with displeasure and complaining, "I don't want to say much, but you know who I am, right?" Immediately, Shirika knelt down and bowed respectfully. "Yes, you are the demon sword, Koam." The demon sword frowned and asked, "What's the current situation?" She glared at Shirika, grimacing. "You almost worship Eru too, yet you attack my master." Shirika showed no fear or special expression. Her face was cold. She lowered her eyes and answered, "I just wanted to see if he was as strong as rumored, to see if he's really the chosen one." Hearing this, the demon sword angrily shouted, "Then why didn't you call your master out from the start?" Her anger scattered the mist everywhere. Shirika just lowered her head without replying. The demon sword glanced at her, smirked coldly, and declared, "If you acted on your own like this, I'll take it as a challenge." Shirika remained calm, even sneered mockingly. "I think we should focus on that kid first." The demon sword paused, exclaiming, "What did you say?" She suddenly remembered. Cyan looked down and saw him lying unconscious, with a small pool of blood flowing from his nose, and she screamed, "Hey, why do you look like you're about to die?" Then Shirika glanced at Demon Sword with an amused smile and said, "You appeared with your true body, but it will have a side effect." She laughed with delight and said, "It will corrode the life force of the host. Demon Sword Koam survives by sucking the life out of Cyan." Koam irritably grabbed Cyan by the collar, lifted him up, and grumbled angrily, "Hey, this effect isn't much. You just drank a whole lot of beast blood." Cyan was still unconscious, dizzy from the nosebleed. While Demon Sword was still busy waking Cyan, Shirika slowly stood up and said, "I am Shirika Nigret, the mistress of the Mist Assassin Organization. I never refuse a fight." Moreover, she looked at Demon Sword with a twisted, murderous gaze, her breath becoming rapid. She licked her lips and continued excitedly, "If you are my opponent, I certainly can't refuse." Demon Sword saw Shirika's twisted demeanor and suddenly felt uneasy, covering his mouth with his hand. She turned pale and thought to herself, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm actually a bit scared." Cyan had regained consciousness and pushed Demon Sword Koam's hand off him. Koam turned to look at him and sarcastically said, "Oh, you're still alive." He didn't bother to respond to her, just glared and asked irritably, "Why did you suddenly manifest?" Koam didn't answer him, but instead turned back to look at Shirika, a pleased smile spreading across her lips. She arrogantly said, "Step back, let me teach that bastard a lesson." Shirika tightly gripped the blade in her hand, which glowed with a sinister purple light. She looked at Demon Sword with eager delight and said, "It's truly an honor to fight you, miss." Demon Sword smirked and teased her, "Don't go crying and begging when I beat you." Then Sarika looked back at Demon Sword with excitement, flooding her eyes, grinning slyly and replying, I hope you can push me to that point. Suddenly a voice echoed faintly in the air. Enough! Sarika froze confused and asked, Lord Eru? Yes. From the dark space a glow appeared beside Demon Sword Cian, focusing all his attention there. A pitch-black gate appeared before the three of them. Eru ordered, take the chosen one to the hall. Sarika quickly knelt and bowed her head, responding, Yes, my lord. Cian smiled nervously, thinking, Finally I get to meet Eru the Dark Lord. In the hall, Eru sat on the throne waiting for Cian amidst the surrounding darkness. Soon after, everyone said that the Dark Lord is very evil. The Dark Lord kills without hesitation and justifies it as an act for the benefit of others. He replied that this is exactly what they want. With eyes burning red like fire, he said, No one else can decide right or wrong for you. If death can help you protect your own principles, then that is enough. Sigh silently, Sword. Everyone says this way of thinking is crazy, but I want to tell them this. God only wants to protect the weak. That is a foolish God. Finally, God Eru summoned Cian. He stepped through the space gate that the Lord opened. The gate took him to a dark hall with about 10 long steps ahead. Climbing these steps, he would meet the Dark Lord, the one sitting atop the tower. The god sat still, resting his chin on his hand, waiting for him to approach. He spoke when Cian stood facing him. Do you know who I am? He looked up calmly and replied, Of course, Dark Lord Eru, the god of darkness. Looking at Cian with sharp red eyes, he murmured, Is your name Cian Vert? I have never met you before. What proof do you have that you are my heir? Facing the Dark Lord's question, he remained unshaken and calmly replied, You must have sensed the power of the mist inside me. The Dark Lord pondered for a moment, then responded, There are two ways to become the heir. First, I can give the heir stone to someone myself. He stared straight at Cian and continued, The second way is when the heir stone spontaneously appears in someone worthy. Cian looked at the god and silently listened. Dark power surged around him as if illustrating the Dark Lord's words. The Dark Lord pointed at him and said, I don't know who you are, so I assume this is the second situation. He continued thoughtfully, Indeed, the heir stone that was supposed to be in the hall suddenly disappeared last year. He widened his eyes looking at Cian and muttered. Above all, his gaze was focused on the demon sword Koam, who had now returned to a small fireball shape. He exclaimed with delight, I didn't expect you could awaken Koam when I still couldn't find her. You control the girl quite well. Hearing this sarcastic remark, Eru flared up in anger, gritting his teeth and frowning at him. Who's controlling who? Cian stood still, listening to Eru's judgment. He turned back to observe him and then commented on those eyes. The light they emit doesn't suit your age at all. He suddenly seemed to see something interesting. Eru covered his mouth, giggled, and said, So that's it? You're an outsider from a timeline I don't know about. Hearing the Dark Shadow God say that, Cian felt quite surprised. He thought to himself in surprise, he doesn't know. Then he said, I thought you were involved in the reason I'm here. Hearing that, the Dark Shadow God just sighed tiredly, waving his hand and replying, If you want to meet an omnipotent God who understands everything, you've come to the wrong place. I'm not strong at all. My status as a god was taken away long ago. Witnessing Eru's indifferent and lazy attitude, Cian could only sigh inwardly, thinking, He's right, I shouldn't expect anything. The Dark Shadow God pondered for a moment, then rubbed his chin and muttered, But this actually works out pretty well for me. Cian frowned and asked, What do you mean? Then Eru leaned back in his chair, lazily smiling happily, and shrugged as he explained, A perfect heir came here all by himself. Now I have less work to do. I don't even need to lift a finger anymore. Both Cian and the Demon Sword were stunned by the Dark Shadow God's laziness. He grumbled, You really are still lazy as ever. After observing for a while, Eru squinted seriously and said to him, By the way, you've brought something quite troublesome. That was because he had noticed the fragment of the sword hilt that Cian had broken off long ago. When he went looking for the demon's sword, he had always carried that sword hilt fragment with him. At this moment, the Dark Shadow God asked casually, You have the demon's sword now and you're still not satisfied. You're planning to take the Holy Sword's power too. Cian smirked as he realized the implication behind the question. He reached for the broken sword piece and smiled mysteriously. For now, I have no plans to do anything. He looked at the gleaming sword hilt in his hand, his eyes flashing with a cruel glint. He laughed excitedly and continued, I just think that if the world doesn't know this exists, it might become useless. He noticed the seriousness behind Cian's calculating smile. The Dark Shadow God, Eru slowly stood up. He commented, "Your tastes are quite intense." "All right, I won't ask anymore. Anyway, it's none of my business." He casually stepped in front of him. Each step was shrouded by a blood-red mist. He said, "But I will follow the rules." The dark shadow. God raised his hand, a burst of light flared upon it. The red mist wrapped around him. He shouted, "As your supreme God, I will ask you, this heir who has received my power." The red mist spread to wrap around Saiyan's body. The question the dark shadow god posed to him was, "What will you do with this power?" Saiyan was silent, thinking, "In my past life, I was asked the same question. At that time, I answered that I would live for my brother." Thinking of Afro and his betrayal, Saiyan inwardly grumbled, "That was a stupid answer." In his past life, those in this temple of the guild, from Eru to the church leader Sirika, I think. But they didn't care about my past life's answer. Even though in the past life, Saiyan also possessed the impermanent power that could shake the world. The Mist Guild members still stood firm amid the destruction, not caring about him. He wondered why that was. Didn't he also have something he wanted? In his past life, the dark shadow god Eru only reminded him once, remember, nothing is more dangerous than blind faith. Thinking back on his miserable end, when he put all his trust in Archer, only to be betrayed painfully and shamefully. Saiyan thought maybe Eru had foreseen his tragic fate. Saiyan stepped towards the dark shadow god calmly and answered, "I have no grand plans, no noble goals or sacred beliefs." He looked at Eru, thinking to himself that this time it had to be different. The dark shadow god seemed not to understand his meaning yet, and he quietly waited for an explanation. He clenched the power from the mist in his hand, boldly replying, "I will only use your power for my own personal purposes, just for myself." Hearing that answer, Black Mist God slowly stepped closer to him, thoughtfully asking, "Right or wrong is for you to decide. Are you confident you won't regret it?" He observed his air, reminding, "You better answer carefully depending on your answer." Saiyan rolled his eyes, pointed directly at himself, and growled, "I can kill you right here." That last sentence felt more like a threat to him than a reminder. His eyes glowed beneath the vast cloak, dark red bones flared around him. Saiyan felt neither fear nor hesitation at his threat. He looked him dead in the eye and calmly replied, "I don't care about the consequence of my actions." He stepped closer to Black Mist, God calmly continuing, "I will not obey anyone's orders. That is the path I will take." Faced with Saiyan's calm and decisive attitude, Black Mist, God nodded curiously, stroking his chin, and asked, "Looks like you already have a plan. Can you tell me?" Saiyan frowned and answered bluntly. Black Mist God immediately sighed grumpily like a sulking child and muttered, "It doesn't matter as long as you clear my name." "Fine then, I won't question you anymore. You're pretty boring." He suddenly fell silent, glancing at the floating orb beside Saiyan. Suddenly, Black Mist God dashed toward the demon sword, his eyes blazing. He rubbed his chin and exclaimed, "Then now I will talk with my daughter." Startled as Black Mist God grabbed her, pinching her cheek affectionately and teasing her in a playful, doting tone like scolding a child. "You've changed quite a bit, haven't you? Do you like your master that much?" "So good, girl." Am broke into a sweat, embarrassed, screaming, "What the hell are you talking about?" Black Mist God didn't mind nor feel intimidated by Koam's sharp attitude. He puckered his lips and said innocently to her, "Seeing you like this makes me happy." Completely opposite of him, Koam screamed loudly, "Get away, stop it!" Black Mist God hugged his daughter and shouted, "I'm trying to treat you well, because I have nothing to give your master." Am stubbornly pushed her father's face away, looked at Saiyan and shouted for help. "This crazy old man, your master, do something." Eru struggled against her refusal. "Stay still." Meanwhile, Saiyan pretended to be dumb, turned away smiling with open hands. Truly a touching father-child bond. Koam angrily yelled, "What, Black Mist?" God puckered up to kiss her forehead, but suddenly something vague appeared, making Koam confused. Unexpectedly, a small glowing formation appeared before Koam, making the demon sword sweat nervously. She panicked and shouted, "What's happening?" A red mist subtly covered her body, wrapped tightly around her, and in an instant she transformed into human form. When the mist disappeared, Koam was no longer a floating fireball, but was in human form. The demon sword was extremely confused, muttering in astonishment, "Do I have a body now?" Even Saiyan was greatly surprised. He bent down to feel the horns and thought anxiously, "It didn't even use its own mana. Eru used your power to create that body." Instead of being happy, Koam grabbed her father's collar, screaming, "What have you done to me?" Eru replied with amusement, "It's not much. I just gave you a bit of my life force." He seemed disappointed that his daughter's reaction was different from what he expected. then asked, "What's wrong? Don't you want it? You need a body, so you can serve your master right." This answer made Koam furious. She grabbed him by the collar, shaking him and yelling loudly, "What did you just say, you idiot?" Black mist, God just laughed foolishly and turned to wave at Saiyan. Witnessing this, Saiyan could only silently think awkwardly, like father, like son. The next day in the academy dorm, servant Brian ran up whispering to Saiyan, "Young master." He whispered anxiously, "What's going on?" Saiyan smiled wryly, whispering back with helplessness, "I don't know either, just ignore it." Faced with Saiyan's indifferent answer, Brian worriedly glanced and muttered, "But young master, there are two girls in Saiyan's room. One is an instructor, and the other is the woman Saiyan brought back." Both were staring at each other with fiery eyes. Brian panicked, hiding behind the chair, whispering confusedly, "I didn't think this was something I could ignore." The sword demon, Xiaoming, angrily twisted a lock of hair in her hand and growled, "Oh wow, the instructor is already meeting with the student this early in the morning. Don't you think others will start gossiping about how special your relationship is?" In front of her, Sharika also smirked with pleasure, pushing her glasses up sharply and replied, "Of course I'm doing this to guide him on the right path. This is a completely normal relationship." The sword demon, irritated like a beast whose territory is being eyed by prey, grumbled angrily, "Shouldn't a lord like you be more careful?" Sirika opened her big eyes wide, staring at Koam like a fierce tiger fighting over territory with a lion, and responded to the challenge, "Whatever I do has nothing to do with you. Mind your own business." Trapped between these two difficult girls, Saiyan despairingly listened to them yell at each other. "The master only needs me. Stay away from him. He's my student." He decided to retreat from this mess, stood up, and went outside telling Brian, "I'm going for a walk." The frantic attendant desperately called after him, "Young master, don't leave me here with them." Behind him, the hot-tempered demon hissed, "Hey, you two, draw your weapons quickly. Let's fight." Lord Sarika exclaimed excitedly, "How could I possibly refuse such an offer?" Brian was sweating and pale with fear, not even daring to breathe heavily. Saiyan sneaked out of the dorm room and headed toward the clock tower at the academy outside. The students were mingling with the lively townsfolk shopping along the street. He looked down at everything from up high. Saiyan sighed in relief, thinking finally he could relax. Suddenly he bowed his head as a familiar metallic smell wafted past him. He thought to himself, there's the smell of blood not far from here. A student at the school was beaten badly and collapsed onto the ground. He coughed, harshly, struggling to sit up. He curled up, clutching his aching arms, scared as he looked at the bullies. 3 boys laughed gleefully among themselves, pointing at him and chatting excitedly. "Hey, let's try using that. Damn it, if you're this cruel, then just do it quickly." "What's that?" The leader spread his hand open. From it appeared a transparent gem glowing with fiery light. He stepped closer to the student, kneeling on the ground, excitedly calling out, "Hey, look at this." He grabbed the student's face, lifted him up, squeezed his cheeks hard, forced his mouth open, then laughed with delight. "I brought you a little snack." He aimed the orb in his hand straight at the classmate, laughing loudly with pleasure. "Your friend made this snack for you himself, so you'll eat it, right?" The friend knew what it was, fearfully clenched his jaw, squeezed his eyes shut, resigned as he couldn't struggle. Fortunately, at that moment, a loud scream cut off the action. "Stop it!" The person who appeared was the 5th princess. She shouted sternly, "Are you all going to be this cruel to your classmates? Aren't you ashamed to call yourselves nobility?" Being stopped right then snuffed out the bully's excitement. He sulked and irritably glanced at the princess, curtly replying, "I am Barrett Lewis Min, eldest son of the Louis Min Duke family from Garum Kingdom." "Who are you?" The princess crossed her arms. "Look at you." He proudly replied, "I am Aaron Severus, princess of the Yusuf Empire." Hearing her name, Barrett curled his lips in a mocking smile. He sneered, "I thought you were someone important, but you're just the 5th princess." The princess furrowed her brow at him, feeling annoyed that her status was being belittled. He stepped in front of her, towering 2 heads above her, looking down as if she was a child smirking with contempt. A pleasure to meet such a great opponent. The princess tried not to back down or show weakness. She stiffly answered, "I don't feel like shaking your hand." She looked at Barrett's 2 henchmen and the small student sitting submissively on the ground and loudly demanded, "You better explain this situation." Barrett rolled his eyes, sneering, as he glanced at the student on the ground and arrogantly replied, "You're probably misunderstanding something here. Shouldn't you ask him?" He shouted at the student, "Tell her." He startled and cried out in fear, "Huh?" Before he could react, Barrett stepped forward, grabbed the collar of his shirt and pulled it up. He threw an arm over his shoulder, sneering and growled, "Are we bullying you or not?" The weak student clutched his aching arm, bowing his head, almost completely defeated. He whispered helplessly, "No, they're not bullying me." The princess fully understood he was being threatened by the nobles. She immediately stepped closer to him, hurriedly saying, "You don't have to hide it, just look at you." The student cut her off helplessly before she finished speaking. "It's okay, please tell them for me, we're just joking around." He averted his eyes, not daring to look the princess straight in the face. Hearing the student submit to him, Barrett burst out with an extremely vile laugh. His eyes gleamed with cruelty. He laughed aloud with delight. "You heard that right, I'm starting to get dissatisfied." But Erin was determined not to let this go. She stubbornly stepped forward, reaching out to the student and firmly said to him, "Whatever happens, you're coming with me." But before she could do anything, Barrett grabbed her wrist and squeezed it so hard the princess cried out. He showed no respect whatsoever for the princess. He glared at her irritably and growled, "Are you deaf or what?" He released the student and stepped toward the princess with an undisguised threatening look. Though quite frightened inside, the princess tried to keep her voice as firm as possible. "What do you mean by this?" Barrett tightened his grip on Erin's wrist. Her stubbornness annoyed him. "Didn't you hear Lassimus tell you to leave?" But despite his threats, the princess remained resolute. She tried to threaten back, "If you don't let go of me right now, I swear you'll regret it." He seemed completely unfazed by the name of a powerless fifth princess in the royal family. He burst out laughing mockingly at Erin. "You're nothing but a tiny weakling." At that moment, Cyan decided to intervene. He had been watching this from the sidelines for a while. Suddenly, he lunged forward and tripped Barrett, causing him to fall flat on his back. Barrett shouted in shock, still not fully grasping what had just happened. The princess was also extremely surprised when he suddenly appeared. She blushed and called out, "Cyan," but Cyan only cared about the small student being bullied, especially after hearing his name was Lassimus. Why did he look at the small student so terrified before him? In fact, it was a girl. He was stunned. Inside was that girl, Lassimus? Behind Barrett, two of his henchmen hurriedly ran toward him. Because of this encounter, Cyan also recalled his past life. Back then in the Garam Kingdom at Clean Castle, he was having a one-on-one sword duel with a swordswoman at night. The female swordsman was no less skilled, as she continuously launched attacks, forcing Cyan to retreat. At that time, he held a glowing crimson, basic sword, but still struggled to fight her. He already had several scratches on him. His opponent, the continent's top swordsman, was Lassimus Glen. She was born in the Glen Empire, but for some reason, after graduating from the academy, she joined the Count clan in the Garam Kingdom and even changed her nationality. At that time, Lassimus truly lived up to her title. Her sword strikes were lightning fast, leaving only a faint blur as her blade swept past even Cyan. He could only defend because he held the demon sword in his hand. One of her sword strikes could shatter the ground beneath their feet, forcing him to leap away. Just as he was regaining his composure, she nearly caught him off guard. She had suddenly jumped from her position and slashed her sharp blade straight at him. But no matter how fast she was, she couldn't match the speed of a missed assassin. She only managed to tear his cloak. In her moment of carelessness, Cyan shot up into the air and dove straight down behind her. In an instant, he plunged the demon sword into Lucifer's back. His weight pushed her straight down to the ground. He pinned her to the cold earth with the demon sword in his hand. She could only cough one last time before passing away. Cyan recalled that the Empire had ordered him to kill her.